I'm really into Flesh and Blood for the last like 2 years. Been making content for the game, and I'm always looking for other TCGs out there, in the market in the last 2 years. And I think a lot of consumers nowadays are. We're
Yeah,
actively trying to look at new things because with Flesh and Blood, what they did is they just really opened a lot of people's minds to just new TCGs can be like really good, and there can be like alternative games that are fun to play. You can have a wide variety of
yeah,
games that you can play. And I searched around and looked around, and it's interesting how each game is run differently, and the strengths and weaknesses, a bunch of them. And what really drew me to your projects, Matt, is
hmm
the artwork. Like the artwork and
uh,
design that you have is so good. And with Atlas, I was really drawn in, but with your new game, Holosseum, I think it's even personally, I like it a little bit better even because it just the artwork is like a little bit less neon, just a little bit, but it's
yeah,
just very
yeah.
refined. So like, could you tell me like, I guess first off, my big question I was wondering with you is when you're doing art, right? And the
Mhm.
projects that you work on, you do all the artwork for, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
Like Atlas, you told me recently 300 cards. That's insane. 300
Yeah.
artwork, all done by you. And then your new game,
Yeah.
Holosseum, all the artwork's done by you. What is your like, when you went from Atlas to Holosseum, what was your kind of art change, if any?
So I guess the main thing was I didn't want the games to be, similar. I mean, they're gonna look. My style is, you know, I guess, it's noticeable that because I think some people have confused thinking that Holosseum is like the reboot of Atlas, but
Mhm.
no, it's a completely different project. Like they play completely differently.
When it's
So
sci-fi themed too, like the artwork, right? And
yeah,
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 I really
yeah.
like it.
So
And Holosseum is I've read the lore and stuff. It's basically a bunch of planets that have to like fight in an arena, right?
yeah, yeah. It's a yeah. They can like bring like entities from their like realms or or whatever they can because it's all about like reality manipulation and stuff. It's I guess like the form of magic in the game.
Tell me more about
Uh,
reality manipulation. That sounds really intriguing.
yeah. So it's five different uh, their essence types or whatever. It's a basically a way to keep the decks unique. So if you get like you have a grid runner because the game doesn't have a mana system or a land system for Holosseum. So you have a grid runner that tells you what you can and can't play in the deck. And
That
there's
sounds cool.
diff- yeah, different ones have different restrictions. So it's kind of a way to keep it from since there's no mana system. I just don't want everybody playing like the best card,
Yeah.
possible, and because that happens in pretty much any TCG I play. Uh,
Oh wow, so there's no mana system because I remember with Atlas it was you draw an energy every turn, and
yeah.
then this one is just like no mana. Like what's restricting the player from playing as many cards as they can on their turn?
So it's two. You can only play two cards on your turn
Hmm,
and two cards on your opponent's. It's like a card limit system. But
that
some of the
sounds cool.
cards let you play more cards. I have like an ability called Cantrip that lets you play an additional card after it's basically like that card doesn't count. Um,
Oh, that sounds cool.
yeah, and the the grid runners have a second purpose, but I'm still like debating on that one back and forth because either the rule I was going to have it like instead of just draw one, it was going to be draw two, or either I'm going to add that ability to the grid runner. Those like one of the two, like because it's really hard to like with static like cards, that stay in play and you start the game with. It's really hard to keep those from being.
Like too
Uh,
powerful.
yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah. Because if you have too
so.
many crazy effects, then you could get like a insane combo that just has too much value and just wins the game. And when you're creating, because I've always been interested in designing TCG personally. Like I've been, fumbling around with different ones. How do you like start with a core mechanic? Do you like build along each way, or like, do you have like a set like six different areas that you try to focus on? Because you're at game number two, so you know.
Yeah, yeah. So with Atlas, I started. It basically started as a I was I played a lot of Magic, like Hearthstone, Force of the Will, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But uh, it started as kind of a just a like two decks to play against each other with with some friends or whatever. Because I don't know, I was kind of going through a period where I was like I didn't play Magic as much, especially because like the pandemic and stuff came, and so I was selling off some of my cards, and I don't know. I thought that I wanted something to play that reminded me of it, but something that me and a few friends can play, and so I started working on it, and it was just kind of like a little side project at first, and then I wasn't even like planning to do the work. I have like a clothing store, like an online clothing store thing that I do the artwork for. So that was like one. I was actually planning on getting someone else to do the artwork for it, and then it was kind of like a money thing, I was like, well, that's expensive.
Oh
I'll
yeah.
just do
I mean,
it. So
contracting artwork for TCG is like a
yeah,
lot of money. And I think that when you have different artists all contributing, like 300 different pieces of art, it's very hard, I feel like, when you're creating that TCG to make it all
yeah,
look kind of like a woven tapestry, if you will, instead of just like
yeah,
a homage of random pictures. And that's what I think is cool about like the projects that you're working on is all the art is like the same feel
yeah,
and vibe. So it's not like you're like, oh, I like this artist of the set, but they only made like three cards. It's like
yeah.
all the art is you, and it's a really, I don't know. I just really like the sci-fi feel, but that's really cool how you had this thing that you like to do with friends and stuff, and then blossomed it into something else during like pandemic and stuff. And I could say the
Yeah.
same thing, man. This is why I started putting on a microphone and
Oh,
videotaping,
yeah,
because it was
yeah.
like, oh, I got extra time, might as well. And I really like card games as well, and I just want to do something.
I was
It's
like, at least I was going to say there was at least a little bit of an escape, like
yeah.
being like with the internet and everything, like just play cards like over Discord or something or whatever. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. TCGs are a type of escape, and yeah, maybe that is why there's all the interest in the last couple of years, with the, everybody staying in. I think that's what a lot of people say. Like that's, I think Pokemon had this huge, huge resurgence like 6 months after the pandemic hit and everybody was indoors and had to get something. But
I played a little myself uh, every once in a while.
yeah.
The free game or whatever on the
Oh
app.
yeah, yeah, the one where you like, throw the Pokeball. Yeah, that thing was fun for a while.
When I was trying out like different TCGs before I started Holosseum to kind of get some ideas of some different things that I thought were fun. That was my like main thing is you know I played kitchen table Magic way before I ever played like in like tournaments and stuff. So or was competitive at all. So over the years I've learned what I like and what I like to play, and then I don't know, I kind of incorporated that because I think that's a thing. I, I I feel like with me, there's a slight advantage that with me doing the artwork and the game design, and I'm a player like myself, that uh, I don't know. I kind of can I
Yeah,
can
you
think about
got
like what I would want,
Yeah, you're like
there.
MacGyver. It's like
Yeah,
if you were just a player and, could create a game, that's great and all, but if you don't have an artist, well, that's going to be
Yeah.
like $10,000 to commission all this
Yeah.
art. And then you're like, well, I can't do that. And I got other things in my life that I need to do. But you have like all the capacity for, a lot of different things to make a finished product. And, even
Yeah.
with the card design as well, with the framework and where all the symbols go, I think you did a really great job. And,
Oh,
and
thank you.
here's a great example of why your skill set is helpful, because literally today,
Mhm.
the day that we're recording this, there's a guy on the Discord on yours for Holosseum
Mhm.
who said, "Hey, I like all the stuff you're doing, Matt, but I'd like to see like a dissection of the card and like where things go." And you're like, "Oh, that's a great idea." 2 hours later, bam, you put up an image on the Discord. You're like, "Dude, here it is," and it's like it looks really professionally done in it, and it's perfect. And I
Thank you.
thought that was like it's just really cool to see that, because instead of someone else,
Yeah.
they'd be like, "Oh, I have to commission some digital guy on Fiverr and
Oh
pay him
yeah.
$30 or something," and it might not
Uh,
look as good, but the quality that you have, and so do you get a lot of the skills from yeah, I know you said you run it's a t-shirt company, right? The Sad Sick World, I
yeah.
believe.
Six Head World. Yeah.
Six Sad World, sorry. And
Yeah.
do you
Oh no.
take a lot of that type of like digital like software skills? Like is it the same type of program for that you
Yeah.
use for your
Yeah.
artwork for the TCG? Yeah.
Yeah. I've used like a few different things. I'll you know I use my iPad a lot to like draw on. Just that's a handy you know I don't know if I'd be able to do what I was doing without it. And the other than that, like I use different kind of like Photoshop, but the one I'm using is not. It's like a cheaper version because you know uh we don't have the I ain't been paid yet for any of the games, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of using what I got, but I've always kind of used off-brand stuff anyway. So
How do you do it on your iPad? You do you like sketch things like
I have
with your
like a
finger?
pen.
Oh, a pen.
I have a
Wow.
pen. Yeah,
And do
yeah,
you
and
do the whole piece of artwork that you do for your on the iPad?
no, I usually do the like the black line work on there, and then I move it over to the computer. And usually, if you can tell, like I so if you haven't noticed, I have like ADHD, and so like coloring in stuff is like one of the things where it's like when I get like I don't know, it's kind of like blended in my style, I guess, but it's like a little sloppy, but it's like it allows me to move a lot faster and kind of like
Oh, you
like
mean like
capture ideas
filling
faster, I
in
guess.
like the like a character or something? Like
Yeah,
basically
like the
there's like
colors.
different. But dude, it looks so cool. It looks so vibrant, and it's very I don't know. It's very what I forgot the word you said just now, but it's that, but it looks more refined. I don't know. I think it's like the biggest
Oh,
strength
thank you.
to what you're doing.
Yeah, it was funny that that was actually not even I don't know. I wasn't really thinking about making artwork for it. I've done basically like a lot of graphic design for years, and when I was younger, I used to like draw little comics and stuff, so
Yeah.
like when with this, I didn't even think that I didn't think about it at first, and then as I started looking at the prices of because I was Atlas originally was going to just be it actually started out as a little like Starfighter like ship game
Hmm.
like sci-fi ship game
Oh yeah, I remember you told
and
me that.
so it progressively changed over the but I started out I didn't really know anything about like the as far as making TC I knew like game mechanics I knew studied like game design and stuff but I've never the actual process of making a TCG itself I didn't know like the booster boxes and stuff like that like I was only familiar with what I've like seen being a player but I started Atlas as a like basically it was going to be two or three decks that basically played against each other, and it's going to be like a little board game kind of feel,
Hmm.
like the decks are all in the box, and then I was going to expand from that if the Kickstarter went off. But that was one of my things with the last one that I think just being, I started Kickstarter without any just like fired it off. I never even like I like read like two paragraphs about Kickstarter, like made sure that I wasn't gonna like lose money or cause a problem, and I
Well,
just like fired it off and started.
but I
But
think more importantly, you did it, and just to back up
mhm,
and kind of go through the motion. So you started the Kickstarter last year around like October 2021, around that area, right? Or November?
yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, something
And
like that.
so this has been your, baby during COVID. You got 90 cards artwork created with a game system and everything that worked. And I believe you had three main factions, right? And
Yeah,
basically you started up the Kickstarter and where to go from there. Like I think you had like pretty good reception. I think you got a third of the way before
yeah,
it ended, right?
yeah, and that was like another thing is I kind of just was looking up what I could afford at the time. Like I didn't want it to be too crazy, but it actually kind of turned out with it being so low. I think that was like put a lot of people off. But I think that's one thing that's good is I'm saving a lot of money on artwork. But that's why my goal is only like 12,000. Because it's most of the money is usually in the art, like you said. I've seen like some people pay like 90% of the budgets in the artwork. So, but I actually think the goal was like too low, and it kind of made people like either suspicious or doubt. The
I think so. And overall, it's funny because you look at all these other Kickstarters out there who have higher goals, and I've literally
mhm.
seen some that say like, gameplay TBD. We're trying to
Yeah,
figure it out, and then it's like artwork, also TBD. We have 20 art.
somebody will do it.
Yeah, someone will do it. We'll figure it out once you donate like 100 grand.
Yeah,
They're so half baked, but they have
yeah,
like beautiful cover art. Like the cover art
hmm
is like beautiful and everything, and they probably like say like, "Oh, we're doing NFTs or we're we're doing all this other bullshit collectability wise and such." And I think that was probably playing just I want to play both sides here. I think the
hmm
collectability as well. Do you think that kind of affected it? Like with people
I,
didn't have like a chase type of thing. It wasn't a booster box, and I think you first marketed it as like a living card game. And I could be wrong here. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but a
oh
living
no,
card
yeah,
game is
that's correct.
where yeah, you get all the cards you need to
hmm
play every type of deck that you want like in a box instead of a randomized booster box, right?
Yeah, that was the idea. And then after that, if it like had a good reception, or the stretch goals would have been changing it over to like an actual TCG or something like it is now. But that was kind of the idea behind it. I was originally just trying to get something going because I felt like I had something good, and but then over the past time with like working with White Goblin games and stuff, I've learned a lot more about what's needed to actually have a full fledged TCG, and it's a lot more work than I was originally anticipating. I knew it was going to be a lot. I didn't know how much a lot was was at the time.
Well, yeah, there's like so much on the business side, and I saw with Holosseum you had the trademark at the bottom. Very smart.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yep, that's really good. And like I've seen also with new TCGs that come out, having a one word type of thing is hard because it's not very copyrightable. So, for
hmm
instance, Atlas is tough. But
hmm
if you have like
Yeah,
Atlas Forgotten Realms, then
yeah,
but
yeah.
people know it as Atlas, that's in like,
hmm
75-point font, and then you have in 12-point font, Forgotten Realms or something like that. You see that in a lot of TCGs out there. Is Holosseum, well, but Holosseum feels like a pretty, I don't, did you create that word?
Yeah, I think so. It's just the I guess the original idea um, was like it was going to be a like a hologram, like and
Hmm.
so it'd be like you could like manipulate the reality in the world, and it just kind of evolved into being actually in the universes, grid runners can manipulate reality. So it's just like a more power than it is. But the idea still stuck with the like hologram Colosseum kind of thing.
Oh, hologram and Coliseum. I'm putting
Yeah.
that together now. A little slow brained here, but oh, okay. And then yeah, so essentially each grid runner is like projecting a reality or something.
Well, so it was basically it's the idea is like the arena can kind of project like different environments and stuff. So uh, I kind of went with I used to watch like a lot of anime growing up and stuff, and
Yeah, me too.
and I was like inspired a lot by like Dragon Ball Z and stuff. You can probably see some in I don't like draw like anime style artwork, but I do. There are things that linger over because I just think they're very cool. I like how especially like their effects and stuff, like the force. I think it's crazy to see a picture and like feel the force of the picture. So
Yeah.
that's a very like when somebody can do that. That's very cool. That's kind of what I
Like
try and
when
do
it
is
stirs an emotion or something? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, yeah, like especially like with the anime like style. I don't know, they'll have like an explosion and like the light is like blinding and then like the person's like stretching because they're like blowing away so hard. Like it's
You can see the
like stuff
wind
like that.
like go off from them and like all
Yeah.
this fire. Yeah. Oh,
So
that
like
sounds
I
cool.
was inspired a lot by some of that stuff, and that's kind of where the idea of the Holosseum was like the arena is kind of like a kind of like Dragon Ball Z, like the time chamber or whatever. It's like the where they can like train and stuff, and uh, basically like a room that's like I don't know expands in all directions or whatever. So it's kind of like that, but it's kind of like an entire arena that can be manipulated. Uh,
Yeah, no, no, no. I could
and
see that. Well, do they do it with their minds and stuff? Because I'm super into sci-fi, and I mean, if you watch like Black Mirror or any of these other types of things, like different realities and such, and the users, these grid runners, are able to like manipulate a reality in the arena to their benefit, and that, I guess each card that they use is kind of that type of aspect.
yeah, the idea is that there's a like uh, so there's a race of beings or faction or whatever. I don't know what you really want to call it. They're called the Demu in the game, and they basically they are so powerful. They're in control of basically the entire galaxy, and so they're kind of looking for individuals with powers that go beyond the normal. Uh, they're basically collecting these beings to try and make their forces stronger, and that's kind of the prize. Is if you win, you get to join them, and if you lose, they don't need you anymore, so they annihilate the entire home planet. And
That's
so
cool,
you
man.
don't want to lose.
That sounds like something you think about like when you're on mushrooms or something like some like crazy yeah sci-fi. No, it's a and it's very plausible, but it fits the whole, I feel like a lot of TCGs out there don't have as much flavor to where you don't know why you're doing what you're doing. It's like,
Yeah, you're
why
just
am I
doing something.
stabbing this guy? Like I don't have any beef with this guy. I just want to live my life. I want to just watch TV on the couch, as a warrior. It's like, but why? But that's kind of what I think. Is that how did that evolve? Did you so you have the artwork, you have the reason why they're fighting with the lore, and then you also have mechanics. Like, do you have like an order of where you go? Do you start with the mechanics, go into the art, or do you just like get into these like artist moods and you're like, I just want to draw a bunch of cool shit, and you just like draw it all, and then you like do mechanics afterwards? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, so I normally do like I'll with like Atlas and Holosseum, the card mechanics were first. I was kind of building the game around cards, and kind of like an unspoken like limiting system. Just kind of trying to balance everything give everything like an interesting, unique feel or whatever.
Hmm.
Everything can play different. That was one of the things that really drove me to like Magic originally when I was like younger was the customization that you could do. I just loved that you could play cards that nobody else was playing. Like
Yeah.
if you wanted to, not advised in a tournament, but
Yeah, but it's like
I learned that the hard way.
is it like an extension of yourself, or you can like create a personality around it, right? Something like that.
Yeah, yeah. So like, and again, ADHD. I get super bored of doing the same thing over and over. So it constantly makes me like when it came to like uh, playing like TCGs, I would like own multiple decks because I couldn't. I would get bored of playing the same one over and over. So
Yeah.
I became more of like a then like one of my hobbies was just kind of like brewing homebrew decks. You know,
Oh
so
yeah. When I
and
feel like, do
different.
you ever play draft or sealed events? That's probably perfect.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, dude, I love draft and
yeah,
sealed. It's so much fun, and like everyone has a random deck, and you never know
yeah,
what you're gonna get. It's just like, and you get to crack packs. Like, it's really just
yeah, yeah.
everything you want in a playing experience. Have you
You,
thought about that with Holosseum? Like, do you think you can make it draftable?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can. The whole set's kind of like built around each of the other cards, so there's a lot of synergies and stuff. I tried to make it basically. I didn't want any like vanilla plain like entities or anything. I didn't want like monsters with no effects. I guess so. So everything is kind of aimed to be playable, which kind of makes like a lot more choices. I guess because there's a lot of stuff that's just kind of there to be there.
Yeah.
uh, so, but with this, since it was going to be a smaller set, it's like 200 and something cards. So I guess it's not really small, close to any of the other like TCGs. But
How much of the artwork have you completed for this?
so there's a good bit. The the few things that I'm missing are I got like a few of the like creatures and stuff that I've made that either aren't finished or I want to redo or something like that.
Hmm.
Because as the story evolved and the game evolved, I'm making this artwork and then like I realize that like something doesn't make sense or something doesn't go together. So like I have to kind of redo some things. So there was like earlier artwork with like different. I was going for like I guess like a certain look for each team,
Hmm.
but then each team controls a certain section of the like color wheel, I guess, like the
Oh, you have the
and,
five
and
colors.
yeah. So in Holosseum, it's the like space time, energy. Forget my own game.
No, no, you're good, man. Like, yeah, space-time energy, and then there's a other two I forget. And like,
yeah,
are you gonna have ones that like have dual colors or dual
yeah,
that would be cool.
yeah. That's yeah. That right now, I'm kind of working where I'm kind of making the set very. I'm trying to make it very, I guess, customizable. Like a lot of different like variety. Uh, that's one thing is I get bored of games. I get like stale when I'm playing the same deck over and over and playing against the same strategy over and over. So I kind of wanted to, since it has no cost, like as far as like energy or mana or anything like that, it you can play anything. So the cards have to be built around the fact that they're going to be played early in the game, and so there's a lot of effects that you're going to have to like protect and grow, a monster or combine them or, power them up with other abilities and stuff. So it's a, it's a
And
unique balance.
yeah, and when you're balancing that, how do you? Because with Flesh and Blood, right? let me. They also have different classes for the heroes. So you have warrior, wizard, ninja, and such, so forth.
Hmm.
And I bet they're gonna do it soon in the game, but it'll be cool to see them hybrid like a warrior and a wizard, right? Which is like some crazy
Yeah,
combo. But you can use both cards. But when they do that, you need to do something to where it might have less health than all the other heroes that are
yeah,
just a warrior. Yeah, because then it wouldn't be fair. You'd be like, oh, I'll just
yeah,
take the warrior
exactly.
wizard instead of just the warrior. So how are you gonna balance that in your like if you don't know right now, it's all good. I'm just kind of
No,
curious your thought process.
no, yeah. I so like with balancing on that, it's
Mhm.
I kind of went with it like a unique way. I think it was kind of like I was making the energy types and stuff like that, and well, with Atlas at least, I was making the energy types, and I kind of was picturing what like the annex in the game have their robots, and they have you know uh, like they can control like electricity and stuff. It's like a lot of uh,
Oh yeah, the annex
like voltage
drones.
abilities. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so with that, I was just kind of like thinking about like what robots you know I'm drawing these they have a few like paper thin like easy to kill robots that just keep putting themselves back together and getting up, and then
Yeah.
there's some giant hulking machines, so that's kind of the so
Oh, so
I
like
kind of just
maybe
built the
if you're a hybrid grid runner, you can only do the
mhm,
small ones, whereas if you are like one that specializes in just like time, for instance, or
mhm.
technology, you're able to like do like the bigger type of cards. So that
Yeah,
kind of sections it off.
yeah, they're like with Holosseum, the each trying to think of the so each essence type or whatever has like the space one has a lot of uh like voiding, like empty, like manipulation, teleportation, stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of building the cards around that, but the balance is when you add something like the energy. When I like combine the space and energy, well now you're going to have two different cards to kind of pick from. So your options are higher than somebody that can only play like the time cards. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to, like you said, give some sort of negative. That was one of the hardest parts was making that because I actually have like
Yeah, I
a
bet.
weakness like system where basically each it's kind of like a 5-way rock paper scissors. Each one has like a strength and weakness to the other ones, and that was one of the hardest parts because I was sitting down with like a spreadsheet trying to like you know I get halfway through and then all of a sudden realize like wait, this doesn't make sense, this doesn't match, and I'd have to like go back and see. So but once I got it down, it made making the cards a lot easier just because it gave them like a kind of theme to go around.
Yeah.
And
Wow. So you
so
spreadsheet it all out. Yeah, and each one has its own like strengths and weaknesses. Like yeah, especially with any type of TCG, I feel like you see that with each type of class or
yeah,
essence. It has its like maybe this one heals a lot or makes your opponent discard or stuff like that, or
yeah.
milling. Yeah, or ramp and such. But
Tried to capture all
yeah.
the kind of tried to capture all the different like personality types that I could think of to add to the game. Uh,
Yeah.
Atlas is actually way crazier. Atlas has 10 different energy types, so
You did
it's
10?
yeah, there's 10 in that one, so it's
Dude.
very
Like when the Kickstarter was out, it was only three. You bumped it up to
it was
10
only
in the
three. Yeah,
last 6 months?
yeah, that was so
Dude, that's wild.
that yeah, that has its own little thing. They contact me and they kind of wanted to, like basically saying like how much of the game do I have, like how much can I sure what do I need to do to complete it, and
Hmm.
so I was showing them everything, and then so we kind of talk everything out, and they're basically the idea is I just make everything, and they worry about the business side. because
So yeah, just to kind of tie this back, and I think I brought us off track. My bad. But like
oh, you're good.
continuing the story where this lore came, worked out. You started in November for Atlas, right? In
Oh yeah,
2021. It got like a third of the way funded, didn't make it. I was pinging you a couple times and then,
yeah.
asking about stuff during that time. And then after that, uh, shortly after, you got contacted by what company?
White Goblin.
White Goblin, and they wanted to produce your game. Well, Atlas?
Yeah, yeah. They wanted to produce Atlas. So I was excited. I didn't even consider it to be like a. I don't know. It was one of those things where I had thought about it. If I had reached the goal and kept going, I would have like changed it into a. Sorry, my cat is getting into a bag.
No worries, man.
But
No, you gotta let the cat out of the bag.
yeah, they're trying to get in one. So, but the see, I lost my train of thought. The
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Atlas,
So, White Goblin Games
yeah, they
is
con.
interested in Atlas, and basically, so they contacted you to produce your game. So, how has that gone with the back and forth over the last 6 months? Like, how does that work? 'Cause I don't know anything about that, so that would be
Yeah,
really interesting to learn.
yeah. So we basically communicate through Discord and emails, but it it's interesting because they I knew that getting with them I would lose some of the creative freedom,
Hmm.
you know they, they're putting their name on it, they don't you don't want somebody just like run around with a blank check with your name on it,
Oh, for sure.
so they don't want me just like I could be putting awful stuff on cards,
Yeah,
sending them out.
some
So
character that just like puts middle fingers up in the air.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So I understand.
yeah.
Over, they I was telling them like the ideas I had and stuff, and they liked it. They wanted me to continue to like expand into them. But then one of the main things was I had everything kind of set up where it was basically three factions, and then there was a fourth like kind of fill-in faction. It was kind
Yeah,
of
the
like a bunch
void.
of. It was the void ones. It's the dregs.
Hmm.
It's like the wasteland
The
people. They
scavengers.
kind of
Yeah.
yeah, and they're kind of like they're hireable. So like the Federation can hire them. So that's kind of the idea. Was the void um, energy cards would be like a fill-in to
Hmm.
kind of any player could play them kind of thing. And usually the effect was they hurt you, but they would help with the colors, fixing the energy because energy in that game is going to be wild. But it's fun. It's definitely fun. But the first set is just it's five, so it's the same as like this one. It's five different ones. There's five other ones in the expansion, and the expansion's already like started. So
Oh, wow.
I kind of I put the brakes on a little bit to work on Holosseum because that was kind of I was getting like too far ahead, you know.
Yeah.
So
Wait,
I was in
you're already almost done the expansion for Atlas?
as far as like some work and stuff. It's got like a basic roadmap.
Dude, Matt.
So
And like I believe it because like I mean I'd have to see all the art, but I believe it because it's like I see all the new art that you made for Holosseum. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is like cranking this stuff out. But it's just nuts to me, like because like I'm just I see all these Kickstarters with just half-baked, bullcrap and just like a cover art.
yeah,
And of course, like there's a lot of room for improvement in any TCG, and
yeah,
I think collectability was the main one for Atlas, and I do see you doing that a little bit more or a lot more actually in your new game.
yeah.
But like it's just cool to see that you can like do any other art you need, and you're like doing all the things. I mean, what do you think about like play testing though? Do you think that you're because when I played a little bit of Atlas, right? And I'm not the best
Mhm.
playtester in the world, but it was reasonably
Yeah,
balanced. Did it have like
yeah.
little things where a deck was a little bit more more powerful than the others, of course. But for
Yeah.
a new game playtesting it, I was pleasantly surprised. Like I was like, whoa, like, this is a game. And so I guess like I don't know where I was going with that, but I think like
Uh,
with
well,
your
they that's one of the so Atlas is they like when helping me play test it. So I have
huh,
multiple people, and I've had local friends and stuff. But that was kind of there's only so much you can do before you like give away all the secrets of the game or whatever before it's out. So, but it so they help with playtesting and that. Yeah, like
and when
Atlas
is
is actually
Atlas
pretty.
gonna release?
I think the Kickstarter's in a few months. They're basically they were waiting on some test decks. They're going to actually go the right way, which I should have gone with Holosseum, but I didn't because I didn't have. I guess like timing was a issue for me.
Hmm.
But with them, they're going to send out test decks to different like uh, YouTubers and stuff, and kind of like get more of a buzz going before they try and
Yeah,
launch it
to
there.
bribe them,
But they're
right?
also putting yeah, exactly.
You put that like $100 bill in the test deck? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah. But that was one of the things that was I guess cool about that is
Oh
they're like
yeah, it's
it
huge in
feels
the
like it's going to be a
industry.
lot, but they're also going to ask for a lot more because they're going for like a bigger like production and stuff. With Holosseum, I wanted to it's literally just me and my wife, so
Yeah,
so I can't but if it our stretch goal is I mean it's not like we can't uh, get more of anything or more people, more help, for shipping and stuff. Some of those goals that I've seen, like I don't even know what I could do with all that. I could do a lot. So
oh yeah, if you
uh,
had like just if it got like way overfunded, like how
yeah,
much extra stuff you could add to the game and do. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
yeah, I can't imagine
But,
it'd be pretty nuts. And I mean,
but,
like with the Holosseum, right? So what I like about what you're doing though, man, is like I think that, over the years, right? I've been interested personally in making TCGs, but I like
yeah,
designing them, but I don't do the artwork at all. Like so that's kind
yeah,
of been my thing. And even though I might say a couple of things about, you're saying a couple of stuff about your projects, like I've got this many games that I've made. You've got like this many. So I mean that's,
yeah.
it's pretty, impressive, I think. And you're halfway to your goal now for Holosseum. So what's the timing, do you think? Like once you get fully funded, where does it go from there? Because like I think the biggest thing, so let's start with like the booster boxes. Like how are you gonna make
Okay.
like cards and packs and booster boxes? And if you haven't like fully thought it out, all good. I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah. So it's basically everything for the goal uh, that I made was I know through Atlas like playtesting and stuff like that. I've dealt with different card printers and stuff. Usually I have to pay a lot more for like a test, like a it might be just like 50 cards, but I'm going to pay $80 for it because it's one like it'll be like two sheets of cards and they'll never have to use that design again. So like
Yeah.
I don't know, it's um, similar to like screen printing shirts or something
Oh,
like.
because are you getting the plates created, like the red, yellow, and blue like plates?
Well, it must be something like that because I have a few different, like different ones I work with.
Hmm.
Because I was trying out different things. Especially when I was first going with Atlas. I mean, that was a that was like a year or two of because I was like printing out playtest cards before I even had like any of that work done. So it was just like little cards. I don't know, I just kind of like having cards in hand as opposed to uh, like paper or on the computer or something like that.
It just
I
feels
just
so good.
It does. It
Yeah,
does.
yeah. And like the ones that I play tested Atlas with a while back, like,
Hmm.
and the cards that I got from you, like, I thought the quality was not too bad. And that was
Yeah.
just like a random, like, make, playing card, and I
Like
can edit that out if you want, but you do
no,
use
no.
like the make playing card company or whatever, and
Yeah.
I like, and here's my frame of reference because I don't want to be over positive, but I've played a
Hmm.
bunch of other new Kickstarter TCGs, and I've opened the cards, and I felt them, and
Hmm.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like some are really bad. Like I won't name names, but there's this one out
Yeah.
there, and it feels like 90s baseball card, like cardboard. I'm like, what?
Oh
Yeah, but like anyway, so I was just pleasantly surprised by that. But with Holosseum, are you thinking of like going to like a big, like, or like a more of a industrial type
yeah.
place instead of like just
Yeah.
a, yeah,
I was gonna say that, and that's one of the things is to like to start. You know, one of the places I'm talking to, 500 booster boxes is like the starting. That's like they won't do anything below that. So you know, like
yeah,
that's
that's a
where like
big boy.
yeah, that's where the goal has to be a lot higher. Because but at the
What's the
same
cost per
time,
box?
it's a lot cheaper. It's like it depends on what you get because especially if you like with them, the request for stuff they I got all kinds of like different quotes. Uh, but with them, it was like it came out to be like about $15 a box. So it's like, but you have to be
It's not
like,
bad.
yeah. So that's one of the like the things is, so if I can get higher in the goal, that printing price goes down lower, and I'm able to add more to the tiers. That's kind of one of the
But the more that they're able to make, it's like, so it could go down to like $10 a box or eight. And is this like 36 pack boxes?
yeah 36 pack. I don't know the I know I guarantee you shipping is like probably a couple $1,000s on top of that
Yeah,
though, but
yeah.
but uh yeah they the more you, yeah, basically if you have like 1,000, like you're gonna pay like $10 a month as opposed to like 15 or whatever.
Hmm.
But and these are all like, you know, this is before, you know, paying all the like uh, packaging and rent and shipping. But uh, and I don't think I had foils in this one. I think this was like a quote for one without foils. I have it all written down. I can check,
Oh yeah,
but
and like 15 without foils. Gotcha. But
yeah, and now and then once with it. So it but basically, I'm trying to get the highest quality, like possible, you know, because uh, you know, I'm also a card collector. I like, you know, I like the shiny ones. So,
yeah.
so,
Oh
so
yeah, and
I
there's
don't know.
something about collectability. It's like, yeah, you feel like it's special, you realize that,
Yeah.
like, wow, like this takes like really like a hard, like, it takes a lot of money. Well, I don't want to say money. Like, you just
Mhm.
realize how special it is because how limited it is, and just how rare it is in the world, I guess. And maybe that's just feeling special as a collector, I'd imagine. Because I'm primarily
Yeah.
a collector. I also play a lot of, Flesh and Blood, but I like to
Hmm.
collect the cards and set collect and such stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it does add something, and with the industry as it is now in the last 2 years, like, you can really definitely see all these different card companies doing like one of 20 cards or one of,
Yeah.
90, and like, I think MGG has done a lot of like really cool artwork, by the way, but just all these different types of variants of the same card, like, signed
Yeah.
card, yeah, to make, the
I
user feel something.
and that's kind of my like I guess like one of the things that kind of I never really got into Yu-Gi-Oh because the you know I looked at like four of the cards and they had like 20,000 words on them, so you know it's like
Yeah.
a paragraph or a couple paragraphs on each card. Um, and Magic was kind of like that for me, but it changed over time, you know. And now I I haven't played the last few sets just because the amount of text on the cards is just like, and you know they're making them more for like arena now.
Yeah.
online client,
It's
so
like you get to
they're
the
kind
end of
of
the box and it says turn the card over to read the end of the fact.
yeah.
Yeah,
What was
dude, it gets yeah, it's
the
intense.
the one that I like is the whatever they added like now it's like when this creature enters, you go into the dungeon and then they have like a thing that you get
Yeah,
different things that you roll a d20 and stuff. I'm like, oh my god, this is
it's intense.
not what I remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of my biggest points about the games I'm making is so trying to show someone any of these like TCGs every time I'm like trying to show like a new TCG to somebody or you can't play them alone so finding somebody to play usually I've got to teach somebody because I'm interested in something that nobody else is
Yeah.
interested in but once like trying to teach somebody magic now is like even the basics is like difficult but when you add all the keywords over 20 years and
Yeah, it gets to be
the
a lot.
it's it is and they're always trying to one up the last set to keep pushing that the chase cards
Hmm.
it's in I don't know I just to me like some of that stuff feels it feels a lot like there's a lot of greed that's like seeped into the game and that's not the only one
Oh, of
but
course. And I think, we both it sounds like you grew up with Magic and I did too, man. Like I really love old Magic and Magic in general, but yes, in the last, 5 years, of course,
mhm.
Wizards of the Coast is a company. They have
Yeah, exactly.
shareholders and everything, so, making bigger and better. But I think, the point you were making about like the text and everything, I noticed with Atlas, with the cards,
Mhm.
you made the abilities very like small, like not too many words. It's just very simple and easy to understand. And you
Yes.
piggybacked off of other things. And I definitely want to say that I think in life as well, it looks weird and it looks like it's not educated when you do that. But in
Hmm.
reality, I think it's better because it makes the user experience more fun. Because when you have a
Yeah.
text, it's not fun. It's not fun to read like
No.
8 paragraphs on every card. That is not fun.
Yeah.
That is like the absence of fun. So when you get rid of all that bullshit and you're like, well, I could just instead of 8 paragraphs, I could just say like, oh, well, this creature gets, +2 attack when it attacks or something, like
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Exactly.
and I don't think it's a cop out at all because I've seen a lot of new TCGs out there, and I have that gripe is when I see all this text, I don't want to read that. That's not fun.
Yeah.
I want something really simple that maybe combos into another card or another 3 cards that you combo together with their simple abilities. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also wanted like a my wife's not a card game player.
Hmm.
And so that was kind of one of the things is like I wanted a game that like she can pick up, and like learn in a few minutes and start. And I mean that's basically what's happened over the course of like working with me, like helping me with the game and stuff. She picked it up real quick, but that was kind of what I was going for with the game itself. Is kind of something that you can sit down, show someone for a few minutes, and then they can play a lot of the and like the intricate like stuff is really more about like the speed of some of the mechanics and stuff.
Mm.
Kind of like I know with Holosseum, one of the interesting things is it's with the card limit. It's kind of like playing like walking through like a minefield at the same time that you're like fighting somebody because you can you know play something unintentionally and forget that you don't have a second card, which allows them to play whatever they want with like
Oh yeah, on mitigation.
unstopped or whatever. Yeah. So it's very interesting
So when
and
they play a card, like, yeah, are you gonna have situations where both people are like, no, you play a card first. No, you play.
I mean yeah that's one of the the one of the interesting things about the game is you can get in these because all the spells are you can play at any time. You can play on your opponent's turn or your turn,
Hmm.
but the entities and powers can only be played on your turn. So it's kind of
Oh.
like they stay on the arena, and the spells are kind of like one time abilities. But uh I forgot what I lost my train of thought there.
No, 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 that makes sense. Like basically, you have certain cards that you can play on your opponent's turn, but then there's other
Yeah,
types where you can only play on your turn. So it's not much of a, and it probably goes priority back and forth. Like your opponent has
yeah,
to play a card after they play a card, then it goes back to the opponent. They can play something on
yeah,
their turn and so on and forth. So
and
it's not like us, a Cold War where nobody wants to play cards
yeah.
because they don't want to be like, out of stuff to do. But
And
overall, yeah, that sounds cool,
there's a
man.
oh sorry, I was
No,
gonna
no,
say
you're
there's
good.
a the like drive to the 2 card limit
Hmm.
is actually what also causes you to want to play the card because you only got if you got 2 monsters like in your hand, you want to play both those before you play your 2 spells because you can play your 2 spells on your opponent's turn unless one of those is required to do something or get around a requirement or something.
Hmm.
So or deal with something that they have, and so it you kind of don't want to waste not being able to put something into play if you can, or playing a card if you can.
Because it's essentially an
But
action point, right? Like in a lot of games, it's like you
yeah,
have two action points on each turn. So if you don't use them, then you just lose it. And that's kind of,
you just use them. Yeah,
is that like a source of tempo in a way? Tempo
yeah,
in a game. Yeah. So if you don't use your action points on your opponent's turn, then you kind of like lose tempo because your opponent's playing like four cards and you're only playing
yeah,
two.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of keeps the and that was like one of the things with Holosseum too is that's one of the last things I'm holding out for is the grid runners. When I originally started, they were going to have an ability to draw the card, or I was originally playing the game with drawing 2 cards. But then I took that out and made the cards that the cards themselves draw more, and then
Oh,
yeah. So
like
the
when
only
you
problem
play
with
a
that
card, you
is,
draw?
well, not always, but there is a lot of there's a lot more drawing in this game because of the fact that everything is basically free.
Hmm.
So you run out of cards quickly if not. Uh, but I have yet to decide if that's the going to be on uh, the grid runners or if it's just going to be like a rule to draw two. Because
That's a good point.
I originally had the grid runners as like a kind of like a look at your top card and you can put it on the bottom or you can draw it or something, some kind of ability that's kind of different. But once I got to like the fourth or fifth one, I was kind of running out of stuff that wasn't making drastic changes in the game.
Yeah.
So like I mean I had one that was like you can play any color, but you start at half the life. Like so your advantage is you can or play any of the essence types, but you start with half a life or half the starting life total. But
Oh, because if
but
they
then
play two, if they have two essences versus just one, they start with half health.
no, it's basically just that certain grid runner allows you to have no color limits, but
Oh,
um,
gotcha.
so you can play all 5 colors, but
Wow.
and you start with half, a life total or whatever, and there are like strategies, like direct damage strategies. So that's one of those. If you go against one of those strategies, they hit you with 2 cards right away. You're almost dead, like right in the
Yeah,
beginning. So
that's
that is
tough.
like a. There's always like a. I, one thing I've learned is I've always learned what makes a lot of games fun to me, at least, is like the monkey's paw kind of situation. Like you draw
Yeah.
2 cards, but you also lose life, or like there's always like a good and a bad kind of balance.
Yeah, it's not like, you have your generic cards, but then you have cards that are better than generics, but they come with
Hmm.
a side effect. And
Yeah,
you
exactly.
have to kind of like balance that side effect. Like there's this one hero that you probably love like really in Flesh and Blood. It's called Chain, and literally he
Hmm.
mills your deck every turn. And
Oh, I
basically
love
like yeah, and every turn you get to choose like if you have these chain shackles, right? And you have
it. Hmm.
counters on them. So every time you use him, you can do this thing where you gain a shackle, and you get like go again on an attack, which is good to pump out a lot more damage. So you get more damage if you add a soul shackle, but at the end of your
Yeah.
turn, you mill your deck for every soul shackle that you have. So you can get like
Okay.
up to like 6 or 7, and you're milling your deck like 6 or 7 cards. It's nuts. But like that's
I love that.
example, yeah,
Yeah,
of yeah,
the
like you gain extra power, but it's at a cost. And yeah, and what
yeah.
about this, man? I really like the concept of you every or most times when you play a card, you draw a card, right? But what if you have
Mhm.
like if you're a one essence, your hand size is like 6, but then if you're like two essence, then your hand size is like 3 or 4. Like then like
Yeah, that
that's kind of a cool.
yeah, the so stuff that I'm playing with that is I've been trying with different things. Right now I have like a good like kind of balance set up. But that is like I guess the dual ones like have a stronger ability usually, but they'll also come with a stronger drawback. That's kind of how I've been uh doing it so far. Um, and of course, like you get synergy. Like usually, you want your negative. Like there's strategies where you can build around like the negative effect that
Mhm.
causes it to not be so negative.
That
So
sounds cool.
yeah. So and I also one of my favorite things is like winning the game like without like an entity or whatever. That's kind of like one of the kind of like games that you don't have to just do the normal thing to win the game. Like could like with Atlas, there's a card if you have one in play, one in your hand, one in the void, and one in the discard pile. You win the game on your turn.
That sounds like
So
a
it's
Hedron alignment in Magic, right?
yeah, exactly. That's actually one of the. I was thinking of different kind of win conditions and like that kind of puzzling effect of trying to assemble something. That's kind of the one of the factions in Atlas is it's a tribe of like women that basically phase men out, in the future.
That's awesome.
They just they don't need men anymore to reproduce, so it's like an Amazon like kind of cyber tribe. They're really naturey, but they're
Yeah,
also
like
but
Warden's
they have
type of vibe.
yeah, but they also have they use like nanobots, so they can like you basically like reassemble things and create shields and stuff out of them and stuff. So it's like a kind of like a hybrid of like a
Like a Borg
person's.
type, or no, not like a Borg, but just like
If,
women who use technology. Yeah.
it kind of reminds me of like that. I don't know. If you heard like solar punk or whatever. Like
I've never heard of
it's
that.
like the it's like cyberpunk, but it's like everything's all like kind of naturey and stuff, and like bright and sunny as opposed to all dark, rainy, and moody. So
I'll have
and
to look that
neon.
up.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, but that's kind of with their ability. A lot of their stuff is they don't attack so much. A lot of their stuff is stuff like that where you either like assemble things or you like trying to lock down to win the game. Like so, they're very like controlling uh,
Yeah,
faction.
that sounds interesting. Yeah, it's like a control type. I love control decks myself.
Me too.
Dude,
And
you have
that's kind
so
of
much like man, it sounds cool how you're like thinking so much into like the balancing and card mechanics. It sounds really thought
yeah.
out, like this
Well,
new game that you
that's
have, and
like
it sounds like completely different from what Atlas was.
yeah, and well, that's one thing that is so hard to like show anyone is like the dedication you put behind the scenes. You
Yeah.
anyone can say like, "Hey, come look at I drew some stuff on some cards. Come look at it." Like, give me money. Like,
Yeah.
so
Well,
that
that's so hard to convey because so many people are good
it
at
is.
faking it, I feel. I'm just going to call it for what it is. People are good at
Oh yeah,
faking it and just having all these good graphics and images without any like substance and quality. And what do you think though overall? Like, I feel like you got the art, you got the card design, you can make a finished product yourself. Are there any weaknesses that you have when producing a TCG that you think that
the
you're trying to get?
the biggest ones is really like because I spend so much time, like making art and stuff like that. I don't really have a lot of like large online presence. So
Hmm.
uh, advertising stuff like that. That's like the hardest part is like, and that's why this is so good for me right here is like something like this where it's like your, your listeners, it's like might not have, a million, subscribers, but they're all interested in TCGs. So it's niche, but it's like strong, like a strong
Oh yeah. Like people
kind
who
of
watch this,
connection.
I feel like are very like interested in TCGs in general, especially Flesh and Blood. But yeah, I don't get, probably like 100 or so people are gonna watch this video, but and I appreciate anyone who watches, me
Yeah.
and you talk for like, a couple hours. Like that's honestly, it's really humbling. Honestly, I don't know. I'm just a normal guy, and it's just, and
Yeah.
like you, dude, this is like my COVID baby, that I do with my free time. But yeah, no, that's yeah, that's a good point. And I feel like collectability though is another thing that
Mhm.
you really didn't have an Atlas at all, which I think is the biggest
It,
thing that
yeah,
hurt you during that
that was
time. But
it was because I was just kind of going more on. It was all built around gameplay. Really, it wasn't really built around collectability.
shame
So
on you, dude. Who builds a game
right,
for gameplay?
right, exactly.
Why would you want
So
that?
that was
I'm
kind
just
of the one of the issue, and that was one of the things they pointed out when I like showed them the game. And that was like what White Goblin really like one of the reasons like everything was kind of broken down and redone was to add in like special versions of cards and stuff like that. I guess with my ability to like make anything, I just kind of have this like, oh, I'll just make it when I get there, and but I don't have anything to show right now, so it's it, it's like I know that I can do it, but then telling someone else I know I can do it is not the same as showing them.
well, yeah,
So
well, it's hard too because it's like you just want to make a really good, good damn game, and you
yeah,
have done that, and you think that that would be all, but like, there's so much stuff that collectability adds to the market with Flesh and Blood,
it really does.
specifically. Not only
It
does
wouldn't
it
be
add
game
like,
without that part.
yeah,
I,
not
I
only
don't
does
think
it
half
add
these games would.
yeah, like it adds FOMO and all this other stuff, but I've seen it in the local game store is where it helps the most because literally like these game stores get Flesh and Blood promo cards that are like, $50 to $100 each and play mats
Yeah,
that are that much too. And it gets people in the damn store to play the games because they
yeah,
just
and
want to get those
that's a
things.
and game stores are like competing with every online video game possible. So like they have
Right.
a lot against them already. Not to
Exactly.
mention Amazon. You could just Amazon or any of the online like TCG places. You can just order and have it shipped directly to your house. So I feel for it. I have a friend that owns a game store in around my area, and he's been doing it for a few years now. And it's just seeing and running a business myself, like seeing how expensive it is to to actually run a business. I mean, the government takes like 30% of what you make anyway, so,
Oh yeah,
but
everyone's taking everything. I mean, yeah, you got
yeah,
the lease on the place and then like employees and all this other expenses that you oh man. Like I
and
feel
that's
like you have to be a hustler and you have to be a good investor, I think, as a local game store and just a business person in general. You have to be like
yeah.
so on it, like hyper
There's a lot of
focused. Yeah.
people that want to do it, but it does take a special person to keep up with it and kind of because you gotta move with the time. You don't
Yeah.
get to just carry what you like. You carry what people want.
Yeah. My ass is too lazy to do that, honestly. Like I would just like
It's a lot. Yeah.
it looks like a lot and it's a really big passion thing. And talking about collectability, right? So with your new game Holosseum,
Mhm.
Kickstarter's on there now. I disagree with something that you did recently, and I want to
Okay.
see why you did. And
Yeah.
so you did it to where this print of the alpha version, right, is
Hmm.
gonna be original artwork. And like you're not gonna reprint that art ever on new cards. And that's gonna add an insane amount of collectability. And if any other
Yeah.
TCG out there or any other creator said this, I'd tell them that they're full of shit. Like there's no way you're gonna hire all this. But with you, I'm like, okay, yeah,
Yeah. I get
Matt's gonna do that in like a month. Like that's gonna be like fun for this guy. But like
Yeah.
do you think that's going a little bit over? Do you think you could just like tweak the art, the surroundings a little bit? And this is me just being, nitpicky and critical.
Yeah. And that's like uh, I kind of get what you mean. Like you have the same card itself, like it's like a different card, like a special Kickstarter version that doesn't might not look different wise, but the card itself's going to look different. That's one of the things I've been kind of playing around with, but I kind of don't at the moment. I guess if there isn't a beginning of the game, there is no worrying about a later game, So,
That is true. That is
so
very true.
it is, and it was like one of the problems that I had with like Magic, for instance, is they have like the reserve list, so like some cards are just never going to be reprinted, and now they're like $800, and you need four of them, like so you just don't play that format, or that's kind of the, but so that was kind of one of my things is I wanted the cards to be collectible, like special, because like you said, collectability. I That was one of the things I learned over, you know, from the time period of ending the Atlas Kickstarter to starting this one, is I learned, that talking more of collectability and like what they like, and and I went on to what I like, and it was it's more right now. It's just like a funding thing. The
Hmm.
more I get, the more I can make,
Oh
and
yeah, no, I feel that. So,
I
and
can,
no, that's perfectly reasonable. Like, I think it's like just crazy too, though. Like, you'd make like all these extra cards, but it does make sense. It's like, well, if this helps you get super funded, then it doesn't matter. Like, and the artwork is the fun thing for you, so you could just,
yeah.
remake all the artwork anyway, in, slightly different images and such. And or I mean, you'd probably like, what do you think you do? You just like draw the same figure at like a different angle, or would you take a
So
little bit different approach?
yeah, so there's one, like, going back to the artwork. That was one of the funnest things to me, is like not many games get to do stuff like I can have, like, hidden like stuff in the art that repeating things that pop up. Like one of the things in Atlas is in the background. A lot of times there's a anytime they're like flying in like a speeder kind of bike thing, they're called jet skies.
Hmm.
They're jet skis that go in the sky, and they just kind of fly. They're like future jet skis that fly.
That sounds
So,
legit.
and that's like one of those ones where I like, there's like a few times where I've used the same guy, like, drawing the same guy, like like flying over trees or something like that, like hidden in the artwork. It's also like making the artwork over time. I can kind of like, I guess, keep like reoccurring characters and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, it's really fun because I think I have an advantage there where
You do,
other
because I heard you
don't.
say the word fun multiple times, and
Yeah.
contracting work isn't fun normally. So, like, let's say you get,
But,
the 12,000, right?
yeah.
What's the comp? And I hope I'm not, I don't mean to ask too much, personal
No,
stuff.
I'm a very
Oh yeah, and I just
open
want to let
person.
you know, like I ask questions because, I'm, trying to, make this conversation go. But also I'm very
Yeah.
curious because I personally, like I'll say again, like I'm interested in making my own TCG and like, designing it and like, putting it out to market.
Mhm.
For the 12,000, how much of that is gonna go into like boxes and like all the different like expenses that will go into like what will that money be used for?
So the majority, like majority of it is going to be basically just printing the product and shipping. Like I got like a few quotes, um, like 8, 9, 10,000, stuff like that. That I wanted to make sure that I set it as low as I could, and kind of priced everything out as low as possible. But when the it, I guess expanding would be real helpful. But I
Yeah,
can lost my train
so
of thought.
like,
Sorry.
yeah, so printing would be like $15 a box times like, the 500.
Yeah,
So that would be
and that's like
like
again, I wanted to like I want to add foils. I want to add, like
Oh
that's one
yeah.
thing is I'm going on the right now like a certain amount of foil cards in each box.
Hmm.
So it's really interesting because I've never seen how they do that process, but
Yeah, me neither.
talking with different ones, it's very interesting because you would think that when you start really thinking about it, you're like, how do they just randomize? Like, and then you realize they don't really. You have to like kind of
Do you,
create a like randomization process, something that they
an
can,
algorithm?
yeah, something like that that you can work around because like when you start thinking about you got sheets of cards, right? Like you, let's say for mine when I was doing the math, it was like the cards come in like 55 or 54 sheets. I think is what I was doing the math by, but basically it's like 54, 55 cards a sheet, and
Oh wow.
so my set was right now is 4 sheets, but this is where it gets interesting because some of those are common, some of those are uncommon, some of those are rares. So you're not going to
Yeah.
print those at the same quantity because then you would have the same exact amount of rare cards you do common
And they
cards. Like
wouldn't be rare.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
that was like when I ran into that the first time, I was like, oh, this is going to be more difficult than than I originally thought was. But that's one of the things that I had to do a bunch of research on and stuff, talk to a bunch of different people.
How many rarities do you have in currently?
In Holosseum, I have common, right? Yeah, common, uncommon, rare, and then legendary. So right now it's four. And I'm kind of like,
Are you gonna do like a lottery card type thing? Like Flesh and Blood has a Fable card. Like
I,
uh, for
I
the
know
fir-
that like
what were you
I
gonna say?
really liked when Magic did like the gold. They did like some that was like a looked like Egyptian cards or like
Yeah,
gold.
Amonkhet.
Yeah, yeah,
Dude, those looked
I'm a
really
kitten.
good.
So that was I'm one of those people that's like I just love any card that's like that shiny. Like it could be hardly readable, and I'm like, it has a pretty picture on it. I like it.
And with Amonkhet, they were unreadable. They were like an Egyptian,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
text. Well, what really made those pop, I think, was the border, right? Like they just added some like
Yeah, the board was
crazy border.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the well, sorry, I keep I'm making coffee and kind of yeah, the frame on those like it makes them beautiful. But speaking of unreadable cards, like Magic has like Cryptic Command or whatever. They
Hmm.
got the full art Cryptic Command that has 4 modes on it.
Oh, I haven't seen
It's
that.
like oh, you see it. So it's a like Cryptic Command has like 4 modes. It's like counter creature, draw a card, tap down, creatures. And I'm blanking on the other one, but basically it has 4 different modes, and you can choose 2 of them. So I was talking about it earlier in the Discord how like the first time you're showing like a new player that like it just blows my mind that they chose that card to be a textless card because like a new player you're like oh it counters that and I draw a card okay it doesn't have words I guess I'll take what you say and then a few minutes later you're like all right now it taps down your creature and it
Oh, because you can't read? Like,
and it bounces something back into yeah exactly so
oh,
now you're just like hold on you're just making stuff up.
that's too funny. Oh my gosh.
But there's like little stuff like that where it's like I think that's like difference between somebody that like plays and somebody that just like is like a just strictly business side of the game or something.
Oh
Is like
yeah,
stuff
for
like that.
sure.
Like it doesn't make there's like some goofy stuff that especially Magic does a lot of times that doesn't make sense to me. It's like they basically have a money printer at this point, and then they still do like very random stuff. Like one of the I think one of the things that really uh, I forget what it was, but it was like one of the cards was like legal, but you had to get it in like you could only get it a certain way. I forget. And that was kind of like one of those like I would do that for like a special version of a card, but I wouldn't
Hmm.
like lock off a card like card playability to players just so that they have to like spend money to get something that that always just feels like taking advantage because they're
Yeah, because
you know,
then
they got
you're
to make
like,
money, but there's a line, there's like a lot of greed too.
and it's really tough. It's like you need to have, and it's a dichotomy, I think, and a lot of trading card game developers, I think, really need to focus on it more, where it's like you have the collectability side, but you also have the playability side, and you don't want to make something extremely collectible that's really good at in the meta to where all the
Yeah,
players need to buy it. But if you have like functionally the same, like lesser than cards of that same card, then all the players can have that one, and then the super like like on my cat, the one that had the crazy border and the Egyptian text, that can be the collector card. And I think that's really where I think that's really the
oh
perfect balance of it. But then even if
well,
you do have like cards that are super rare, like in Flesh and Blood, the Fable cards are the just extremely
mhm,
rare card. It's not that powerful. It doesn't do much. Like it doesn't break the game. Like it doesn't make it
yeah,
to where you build a deck solely around that. Does it help? Of course, but it doesn't like do some
yeah,
crazy effect that's just bonkers.
yeah. That's like you know, it's rare, so they just staple a few more keywords on it. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen that a lot of times, and then I'd see that card for the next 2 years in whatever game I'm playing because the best card, until it gets banned,
Well, yeah, and I
stuff like
feel
that.
like
Where
Yu-Gi-Oh is notorious for that, right? Because I remember as a kid, I was like,
I,
"Oh, sweet, 50, like the attack power of the creatures would be like, oh, great, 1500 power, that's great." And then they'd print another one that had 1600 power, and it was
yeah,
like
the
just
creep.
better. And then 1700, 1800, it just kept going up and up and up, and it's like, well, what the hell? All these other cards are, pretty useless.
Yeah, it gets to the point where like you're. Well, I went to a Magic tournament one time. I played Legacy for a little while, and for like goofing off, I brought like a deck that could win on turn one. And there was like a few games that I would just like win, and the other person didn't get to do anything. And it's just like that does not feel good.
Oh, because
I
in
mean,
Legacy you can just stack like make a just insane deck that can do turn one
so
wins.
yeah, basically, yeah. There's one like Oops All Spells or whatever, like old one. There's one like that uses like Goblin Charbelcher. It uses like a no lands in the deck, and then you use all these like free cards to kind of get through. Well, when you activate the Belcher, it like goes until it reveals a land, and since there's none in the deck, it just like fires all the cards at you. So it just like one shots your opponent, which
Oh, it's
it's stuff
crazy.
like that that
Yeah,
I was talking about that is goofy that I love. Like that's the kind of like
it's
you
just
just
the
have like this
creativity, right? Like that, I think the
yeah
creativity that goes into those decks that you're talking about, the one turn kill, is just crazy. Like I remember my favorite one in Magic that I never built was the Protein Hulk one. I don't know if you saw that,
oh yeah I
where
remember
you
that
you
the Flash
flash this
Hulk
thing in, yeah, and then it just like it's this huge like I think 6 mana Hulk. It comes in, but then you didn't pay the cost of flash, so it just
so all
instantly
your
dies. But then once it dies, all of like the 1/1 artifacts come into play, and then you
Mhm.
can just like sack them with this one card and just like kill your opponent instantly. It's just like
Yeah,
that level of creativity of like thinking like of those like four different things is just nuts to me.
and that's one of the craziest things about like that with the TCG is like you know trying to find those cards or those abilities that when they're together. Luckily, I have a few what like I have different games and years of their you know uh, kind of like what worked and what didn't, what's broken, what's too much. So I kind of get it is one thing like starting out a game this late in the I guess yeah, sorry I lost
No,
it. It
you're
was
good. No, starting a game
like
this late, like just like in the broad band of like TCGs, you mean?
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like, so I have a lot of examples of different things that have been tried or different things that, that I can kind of look at. And there's like a lot of things I learned along the way. Like one of my favorite advice for like game design is don't tell the player what to do, let them tell you what they want to do, So like it's I learned that it is very you're not going to change people, so
Oh
it's
yeah.
better to kind of go with them than it is to go against them. to
Yeah.
force somebody. So because like who are you to say what's fun to someone else? So
And do you
that
listen to a bunch of different like speakers? Like I think Richard Garfield had a really good. No, no, not Richard Garfield. Who's the lead design
Mark
for Magic?
Water.
Yes, he had like
Yeah,
20 years and 20 tips or something. That was a really good
yeah.
speech.
I was gonna say I think that was actually where I got that one from
Oh,
because
really?
yeah, I think that's where that came from. Either that or there was one I watched with one of the guys that did Hearthstone. And it might be the same one. I can't remember, but it's one of the guys that did Hearthstone and Pokemon. Like he was talking about it, and it was like I learned a lot from that one too. Like
It shows, honestly. With the pro, I can see you definitely like, you definitely put those types of things in there. And
yeah, and
those
that's
things
a
are great to learn from, honestly. Just even if you're not developing a TCG, just to
oh
understand
yeah,
them
just
more and just to understand why people are making them like that. Another thing I really liked about that one is he said the best cards in Magic the Gathering's history overall is when they surveyed, internally, right? Like, okay,
mhm.
card A, what would you rate this on a 1 to 10? And then they had card B, what would you rate this on a 1 to 10? If this one got all fives and sixes and this one got all ones and tens, this one was the better one. Like something that
Yeah,
evokes a
exactly.
response from the user, like, "Oh, this is amazing," or "Oh, this is terrible."
That's
Like that's
that is the action.
that's a good card, and that was always fascinating. I was like, "Oh, I think if you got like solid sevens, that would be good." No, you want something that's like, you know, makes the user think something.
Yeah. Well, that's actually what White Goblin. One of the things they first said to me was either people are going to love it or hate it.
Yeah,
Either you like my style or you don't like it at all. So
yeah,
it's a. I think that is one of the. When they said that I kind of recognized that was a that was one of the draws is either people are going to like it and be interested in the different like you know creatures and stuff like that, or they're just going to see a bunch of repulsive like like monsters and neon pillars. So
yeah, and
uh,
yeah, I could see too with the types of factions that you did, like in the past, you only had three. But what's crazy,
mhm.
man, I don't know. I'm gonna say it again, I can't imagine you have 10 now for Atlas. But if you do the same with Holosseum, I could definitely see that as a way to like grow like users based off of different factions that you create in the future. Like let's say you
Mhm.
make one that's like a bunch of like panda bears, like cyborg
Yeah.
pandas, and like someone sees like a picture of a cyborg panda just like eating like ripping a human apart, like they're like, oh shit, that's awesome, I want to do that. Or if you have like a dinosaur one or some other type of like zombie type tribe, and I could see that that is a very like you're casting a large net there without like really betraying your core vision for the game, which is like all these different planets,
Yeah.
fighting in an octagon.
And there's definitely like a sense of like humor. Like the game's not like doesn't take itself too seriously. So, but if like when Atlas comes out, there's like a bunch of stuff in there that's like goofy. Like I got one of them is like it's like the one of the factions, the Federation. Basically like the information from Earth and stuff was so long ago it was lost. So they thought the dinosaurs like lived with people, so they brought them back as like vehicles and stuff. So like they brought back dinosaurs and then put mechanical parts on them, and now they drive them around and stuff. So
Oh, that's awesome.
it's stuff like that. It's just like over the top. Like I've always like loved that kind of like over the top sci-fi. Like just complete. It's so much nonsense. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Like
well, and people can think that that sounds a little crazy, right? But if you think
mhm.
about it, you look at the pyramids, we don't know what the
Yeah,
hell that stuff does. It does something.
yeah,
That wasn't just somebody's random like home. This is some
yeah.
type. And I don't know
Like
about you. This is
Stonehenge.
this is going more into like conspiracy theory, but like it definitely seems like those pyramids were built before the Egyptians from a lot of different conspiracy theory science. So there's a lot of I don't know if you've read up on that type of thing, but like where they think that scientists, like the Egyptians people that lived there, right? They didn't really
Yeah.
build the pyramids. They literally just like dug it up and then lived there and just scribbled stuff on it. And there's a lot of interesting evidence around that, but that kind of goes to your thing. It's like, well, like if civilization dies out and then new civilizations rise after that and they look at like what the previous one did, they're not going to understand certain things and they're just going to take it out of context.
Oh, some of the other so with Atlas being a little more story wise, Atlas was a little more starting out. Me, my wife started joining me on writing it. She kind of keeps me if you can't tell, like I'm I trail off. I get involved in 100 different projects. So she kind of like uh, and she's a lot better with the vocabulary than I am. That's like one of my weaknesses. You'll notice misspellings and stuff like that. Of course, all that'll be fixed before it prints, but I'm notorious for
I'm the same
misspelling.
way. I'm more of a math guy.
I'll spell the same. I'll misspell the same word over. Like it doesn't matter how many times I've been corrected.
Been there.
It's like my brain remembered it that way, so that's what it is. But with Atlas, there's a lot more. Like one of the lore is a little more interesting, and the cards are have more of a like a kind of like a I guess I'll just like use an example. One of them is the Federation was actually like like a big corporation like Amazon, and it was like the world government's collapsed, and
Uh-huh.
then basically this Amazon like company hired their own military to protect their resources, and they just became like
De
the
facto.
world military. Yeah, exactly. And then once they left Earth and moved over, they never knew anything different. So it's got a weird like the the CEO, like the most generic name I could think of is Pete Chairman, and he's got his own
His name's
card. And
Pete Chairman.
Pete Chairman, yeah, he's got
That's
his own
awesome.
card, and he's basically like a brain and like a like a little robot like projection. It's like his face is like projected like a like Wizard of Oz or whatever, like one of the like
Yeah.
the
Like a
but
projection, like a 3D one.
yeah, it's like a little. I'll send it to you after this, but
Yeah.
it's like a little tripod robot thing with a dome and a brain in it, and it's like got his head
Oh,
like
like
projected over
in
it.
a jar, like Futurama or something.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So they like kept him alive since like the beginning of you know. Basically, he's had so much money that he's like lived forever. But it's goofy stuff like that that I love. Uh, it was like fun to make during Atlas, and it's one of those like that's really hard to show like people with just a few cards. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those like there is a complete story like through the artwork and through the cards and stuff, and uh there's a lot of you know stuff like that that's over the top sci-fi, but it's like it's I don't know. That's all I find it interesting because originally I started out with stuff like the Federation like pilots like like hook their like blood up to the you know the space the spaceship so that they can handle more G's. Like they can pump like oxygen and blood directly into them so they can stay conscious for
That's
you
awesome.
so stuff like that I just love coming up with things like that. I watch a lot of like sci-fi and the used to read a lot of sci-fi books and stuff when I was growing up, so it's always been an interest for me.
That's so cool
It
to
feels like
hear,
everything's been
man.
done though.
Yeah,
It's so
but I
hard to
mean,
like come up with new.
yeah, new takes on it. But even if you tweak it a
Yeah,
little bit, and of course, you have your own art style that projects it,
yeah.
different, that might have like different perceptions, different emotional responses. But just hearing that, man, dude, that sounds really cool. Because the traditional TCG, when they contract art, I don't feel like they really convey what you said. Like they're like,
They usually give a description.
yeah,
They're
like,
like
hey,
wizard.
yeah,
uh,
give me three pictures of a wizard, please. Like not like, you know.
Yeah,
like the faction that wizard's around, and why he
yeah,
came to be. Like you said, like there's this Amazon type company that rises up, and that's like the
yeah. So there's
the
like a whole background, you know.
yeah, there's a whole background to every image that you're doing, and
Yeah,
I feel like that's something very unique around what you're doing that I think that's I agree with what you said earlier. That's like your competitive advantage here, to where you
mhm,
can just pump out a ton of stuff. And I've heard so many times you say it's fun or I love it. And
yeah.
just being
Oh,
able
it would be a
to,
dream job
yeah,
if I could do it
relay.
all the time.
Oh, dude, I hope so, man. I
I,
think
I,
I think I don't know what projects is gonna hit with you, man,
mhm.
but I think definitely it's gonna happen. Like, and Holosseum sounds like really good. Like I've seen the
Yeah, yeah.
cards, but like, do you have any like test playable decks? Like
I do. I've got so with uh with the whole pandemic and stuff, like getting, especially the past month or two, getting stuff shipped over from different places or getting stuff printed is just like a nightmare. Like,
Oh
especially with
really?
them like closing everything down. Yeah, like when COVID kind of spiked back up over in China, like getting anything shipped from there, and like 95% of like card manufacturers there. I'm gonna try and like of course use like a one of the more well known like American companies and stuff when I go to print, but just for like test decks and stuff, that you can't like beat the price of the what they offer. But the only problem is it's like you usually have to wait like 2 weeks to get it. Well, now it's like a month or two, so it's like
Oh geez.
and that's one of the. I basically ran out of time because like money wise, like I only had so much before I was working. Still work for IKEA, so
Hmm.
like I have a day job and everything, and but with that and the store and everything, it was and the game and pushing so hard on like Atlas during the time, just because I was excited. I got hyper focused on it, and you know, but I kind of like just got to the point where I like really wanted to do that full time, and uh,
I
but
feel
it's
you.
not,
It gets a lot. Like I have a full day job, and like cranking out videos like, after work, dude, it gets to be a lot. I mean, these type of videos are the best because I guess just get to talk to someone, that I want to talk to, and I just upload that, in mostly in its entirety. But yeah, it's a lot when you're doing two things. And if you were able to do it like full time, like how much, more stuff you'd be able to crank out.
yeah, and like also it's just like a passion thing. Like one of the reasons I moved so quick is because of the fact that I love doing it. So
Hmm.
like I get really into it there, and kind of like it's a good escape too. And so I would love to do it all the time, but basically why I had to launch the Kickstarter and didn't get a chance to get like a bunch of buzz and stuff going is essentially like I've got to get like a second job. Like and it's gonna eat up all my time, and that's kind of one of those like I really that's one of the
Well,
things where
and you're
I
like
guess
the
I would.
one man shop. I mean, you're doing the art,
Yeah,
you're running the business, you're handling like
yeah,
making the cards and, testing it and everything like that. And you also have the other game, and you have the, your shop, your online shop. So I mean,
yeah,
yeah, dude, I, I'm feeling pretty lazy compared to all the stuff you have on your plate, but like no, it gets to be a lot, and especially TCGs like I mean there's a lot of them out there that just get like a lot of employees and to do a bunch of different stuff. When you're
yeah, and
a one man band, dude, like you're really killing it. I mean,
yeah, and I mean I have to also say that I used to play in bands and stuff like music wise. Like I have to make music, so I have a few different music projects. But
oh yeah, I saw those in your intro clip
yeah,
for, yeah, you made the music.
oh yeah, yeah. The I made the music for both the videos too. Yeah,
Yeah.
but uh, that's all. That was actually what I like originally. I that was like one of my focuses was to get like known in like music or whatever. But I had one shot at it. I think one of my videos went like one of my YouTube videos went like a little viral, but it went viral in Russia randomly.
Oh, that's cool.
One of, yeah, one of the songs I made was it was like they used it for an intro to some Russian TV show, and like didn't ask me at all, nothing. They
They
just
didn't even ask you?
straight up did it. No,
Did you reach out to
it's
them and
Russia.
like, hey?
I did, but I have no clue how you would handle any of that. Like
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Like somebody like copies your, I've seen some, especially like working with artists from Etsy and stuff that they'll copy like a design or like some kind of device or something, and it's like, what can you do about it? Tell them to
Yeah.
like
What are you gonna
in
ask
another
for like
country.
3,000 rubles or something? Like,
Yeah,
you know.
and that was like how it like randomly I like woke up one morning and it was like I had like 200 YouTube notifications and all kinds
Jeez.
of like one of the videos it's got like half a million views or whatever. So it was
I'll have to
like,
take a look at that. That sounds hilarious.
but it randomly sparked like a lot of like people were is a bunch of Russian like people doing like dances and like dance studios and stuff to the song. So it like started this weird thing where and then I started getting messages from like Russian rappers and stuff wanting to use the beat and stuff. It's like so that was a very interesting time period. But
That's
again,
nuts.
that was one of those. It was one of those. I didn't
That's
like. I didn't really follow like. I think like the at the time. I think the immediate like explosion kind of like scared me off from like all that attention, But
oh yeah, and
now
like
looking
really
back on it, I wish.
monetizing after, like making a second one or
And yeah, I was about to say, and it was before like YouTube was like so much monetizing. I'm talking like 10 years ago, like
oh yeah.
so it was and like even if you like search one of um my old like artist names or whatever, like those videos are all still all over online stuff, and I get nothing from any of those because it's like before.
Oh yeah,
Um,
before the monetization and everything. Yeah, because back in the day,
yeah,
like yeah, YouTube was just like I've heard, and this could be wrong, but like it started. There's a lot of anime music videos, like in 2014 or maybe a little earlier that like that was really catchy for a time, and then more and more
yeah,
people started like migrating to the platform, making it more mainstream. But and I think there's like a lot of like bootleg stuff to where people just
yeah.
uploaded copyright stuff, and it's there's no
Mhm.
copyright strike on YouTube for a while. I saw that a lot, but yeah, it's amazing
It
how,
really
back in the day, there's no monetization. Like if you upload a video,
it's
there's,
a Wild West.
yeah, you're not getting any money for it.
No, no, yeah, and that
Yeah.
was like another one of those where like it's always been more about the passion than money, but then
Mm,
money eventually hits a point where you can't live for free. It
yep.
costs to be alive, so and that's one of those where I was really hoping like you know, but even if I get like the sorry, I'm muting myself for a second.
Oh, you're
But
good.
even if I get the goal for Holosseum, it's basically just going to cover like the printing, the shipping, stuff like that. So it would really have to like go a lot higher for it to be like anything that I'd like walk away with like any kind of profit or anything. So
Yeah, and I
again,
guess
it's
you could do multiple waves, right? So you do like the Kickstarter wave, and then after that, if more people, more demand on the product, you do like a certain print like number. I could see that as being like because I know we talked earlier about like the card art for this is like final. Like once it's done, it's done. Like maybe
yeah,
there's like a certain number of booster boxes you can say like only 10,000 booster boxes, which would be pretty crazy. Because how many how
yeah.
rare is your legendary card?
So that's like another thing that I'm still working on I guess like the spacings or whatever. It's like a general rules like X amount per box or whatever.
Hmm.
Like that's one of those things I'm still kind of working out because I don't have like a final. It's so strange because I've priced out what I need for the basics, and what I can do that hopefully like will jump off and then get the word out more. Maybe I can use that to like make more or expand or something. But with the strange part with I've lost my train of thought.
Oh, no, no. Well, like we were talking about
Like
like,
the
the
spring.
no, no, dude, I was I was trying to, what is it, think about where I was going too, but I think you were talking about too, like the total amount that you have for the 12,000. That's just like bare bones. You're able to print all the
Yeah,
product that you need and you're able to get it out there, but it doesn't really add much, funds for you at the end of the day for going through like
yeah.
hours and hours and hours of work on stuff.
Oh yeah,
Because you need
definitely
to get
not.
paid at the end of the day too, man. So like, and what I've learned too in this industry is scalability is huge because it reduces the cost of the product when you do in like there's
Yeah,
economies of scale. So let's say you got like,
exactly.
like I don't know, like 50 grand instead of the 12 grand, you'd
Yeah.
be able to
So
provide the
that
booster boxes instead of like a
I'd have
hundred
to read.
dollars. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to redo the math on everything. Like that's the hardest part. Is like I don't have I'm not a like publishing company or something. Like I don't have like my goal isn't $100,000. Like it's like I would love it to make the game as big and spread as possible, but like I'm just it's just me and my wife. Like it's not and your cats. So
Yeah.
you know so uh like it's all like a passion project and stuff, and uh that again that was like kind of the main thing was with the Kickstarter. The game was like I'd say the game's like 90% like done as far as like
Wow.
artwork and
90%.
everything. Yeah, it's like I literally, besides switching over all of the see, one of the things I'm having to switch over all the cards because I changed the card design throughout the process. So
Hmm.
the cards that I have are not the same design that I've been showing for the newer, like the updated design. So I got to switch all those over, and that's one of those like that's just going to be sitting at the computer for a few hours, like doing the same thing over and over.
Do
It
you have
doesn't sound
like
exciting.
because like when you have the layout of the card, you can't just like overlay
Mhm.
it like the new picture on it. You have to like totally like revamp like every single card one by one.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, there's different ways to do it, especially like working with White Goblin. I saw the way they do it and stuff. With mine, like I guess because like I don't know I like to add like a little thing like a lot of the artwork is I do a lot of the figures I do separately than the backgrounds and stuff, so that I can use them later on, like you know use them and like draw onto them or something like that that helps me like I got the idea from I watched I forget if it was like a documentary on this or not, but it was like Hanna Barbera, the
Mhm.
cartoon company
Yeah.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah, I
they
remember
used to
them.
yeah they were notorious for being able to make so many uh like shows and stuff because they used a like they would make their characters separate on separate slides, and they would
Oh, like layer them on
reuse
top.
yeah, and they would reuse like the body, but then they would like change the limbs around and stuff or the face and stuff to like save time. And that was
Oh.
kind of their like they would take like they would basically like put it on, take a picture, take it off, like put and like that's how they were able to like animate so fast. You can also watch like they did a thing where like it's like the same motion for like 20 different characters. It's like the same like running motion or whatever. So they I got the idea from that if I save the characters separately from backgrounds and everything, I can use them in other artwork and manipulate them and stuff. And that's kind of like one of the reasons I'm able to move so fast is because I do have like a kind of like
You
a
you have all the backgrounds and you do this character separate, so you layer the character on the different backgrounds.
yeah, that's kind of and I'll like finalize like that kind of stuff by adding like details and lights and stuff like that. But a lot of the characters I have separate, and it also allows me to do stuff like like three. I don't not 3D art, but I can like put the character like standing over the text box or something like that.
Hmm.
Like I could do all those like 3D kind of like card, uh, like special art cards or whatever.
Yeah, so it kind of like pops
Because
out of the card because you do the layering.
yeah, and like there's one on that list that I love. I'll probably send it to you after this. It's but like one of the it's like the gun hanging over the card border,
Hmm.
and it was actually like one of those like happy accidents kind of things where I like was putting the card together and I didn't have like an image. I think I was like missing the image for one that I thought I had, or I didn't know where to save it, something like that. So I was gonna remake it. I just remade it on the card itself, as opposed to like because I had like a bunch of pieces and reassembled it, and it was like one of those things where when I was putting it together, the character being over the like line actually looked cool, so I kept it, and then I started doing it with other ones, and
Oh, nice.
you know, so it's been really helpful that I like so I don't have to like start completely from scratch every single time. But then again, there are times where, especially when I come up with like a new faction or something, where it's like they gotta look different than everybody else, so
Yeah.
they can't reuse anything. Gotta make something completely new. But and that's kind of like just how I've been like working, and I guess like one of the it's really strange because it's almost like staging like models on a scenery or something.
Hmm.
Like
So yeah, so it's like, you do all these images separately and then you layer on top. Is that what you're saying basically?
yeah, basically like it's like I'll work on, let's say like a the iteration for Atlas has uh their main character, the leader is a guy named Dallas Hayes. He's like over the top action guy.
Like Zap
But
Brannigan or something from
yeah,
Futurama or
yeah,
yeah.
something like yeah. So he's a but with his thing, like I basically was just like making a random dude, and
Yeah.
uh then I was like, okay, well now he needs something to stand out. So I gave him like some like purple hair or something and like a mustache and then like and now he like
Awesome.
stands out and like okay, now he stands out. Now I need like a backstory and stuff on him. So but once I did all that, I would save like a few different like I guess like concept art of them, like different poses and stuff,
Hmm.
like save them in a folder, and then throughout the game, I'd be like making something. I'd be like, oh, I need a scene for this card. Like it'd be something like some kind of research card or something. Like look at your top two or something. So it's just some kind of you'll notice like some
Like
art
images are like
is
reused in different aspects.
yes, there'll be like certain certain uh I try not to do it too often, because
Of
but it
course.
it it also kind of adds some of the like oh like that's the same person from this other card, but usually I'll send you some stuff after this to show you, but it'll be something like I'll have a car and then I'll actually take the person and put the person like in the car or like like
Oh
flip
yeah, and you have those two
like flip
images
them down.
separately, but then put them together.
Yeah, exactly. And then I just like now I have that person driving in a car in this card, So it's fun. It it I guess it just works for my style. I but there are times where like I want something different. I want something to stand out, so I'll have to like
Mm.
redraw them as like something else, or like
Yeah, yeah, you
like
have to
there's
like
one.
do just something like if it's something that you don't already have like some, image that you've already done that would be applicable, you have to like, make it in its new light. But what would you say overall? Because it sounds like you have so many different skills, man. What do you think has been the most challenging, and what would you tell someone like me who's like interested in making a TCG, but like they don't know anything about it because they haven't done it? Like, what would you tell them is like probably like the most important things to like, do or just be aware of?
So the most important thing or the hardest like challenge that I've come across is really dealing with like the other side of the TCG thing, like the more so like the companies and stuff and the people that collect and stuff like that. Like going into it, it's like I guess industry standards, like everybody's been doing the same thing for X amount of time. You have to fall within it a little bit, but make it interesting. But you can't just like start off like completely different than everybody else. Like people, it's like scares them away. so
Yeah.
so that is one of the things is having to learn like what people look for when they're looking for like something like backing a game or something like that. Like that's been one of the most challenging to me because like I have a bunch of artwork and it's like, okay, well you need to pick one for this like picture.
Yeah.
Like okay, now I gotta pick one of the 400 things I made. Like and I put something up here like, well that doesn't really that's like just one card. Like there's some like I got a bunch of stuff. I don't know. There's like stuff where it's like a real chaotic and explode like the guy's face exploding and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Lasers and stuff. And then I'll have like a tree that's that's just got a bunch of flowers and shit on it. So it's the artwork is very like all over the place, and which keeps it interesting. But
Just because you never know what you're gonna expect, and it's not like you're trying to like glorify just like brains exploding, but then you're not like
yeah,
on the other side of the spectrum.
yeah. There's like there's like one forget it's like a some kind of removal piece. It's like a explosion or something, but it's like the animation is, or not the animation, the drawing is like it's like the person's face is like shrinking and shriveling up, and in the background there's like a giant like nuke going off. It's like
Yeah.
it's it's a really intense like
Oh yeah.
thing, and
Wasn't
then the
that
one
an
after,
Atlas?
yeah, yeah,
That
but
sounds really familiar. Yeah, that was, and it's those cards too, specifically that like really invoke emotion. You're like, oh my gosh, this person is getting incinerated. Like this is,
yeah.
yeah, this is not good.
It, there's like another one in Atlas where like the nanobots like basically rip a person apart, like by and so like the person is drawn and it's like the skin stops at a certain point, but the bones and everything continue. So
That's crazy.
like I just like there's like I kind of like that I'm giving a little bit like darker edge to the artwork. It's definitely not like a for 9 year olds or something.
And that's what really got me, because that's why I love Flesh and Blood, is because the art and the
More
lore,
of an adult.
it's more of an adult. Exactly. The booster box says 16 plus, and you do see certain artworks like Mangle where you have this big guy with a sickle and he's got like a decapitated head on the end of it, right? But you don't have that
Yeah.
in every card, it's only like in
No.
like
Yeah.
5% of the cards, just when the feeling is right, to where you're not
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
desensitizing your audience to where it's in like 95% of the images. They're like, oh yeah, just another severed body. Okay, you know, oh, like another like, random like,
Every single,
yeah, like
just
where
all
everything's
bloody gory stuff.
exactly. Now that would be kind of an interesting TCG concept, but I don't think it would gain too much
Yeah.
traction. But but yeah, it's you be adult, but you do it within limits, and I think that's where Holosseum you can really do that, where certain factions can probably be like more gory than others, and then yeah, maybe you do
Yeah.
have like a treant like race that's just a bunch of trees, and
Yeah.
yeah.
That's kind of why I love like sci-fi. You can whatever your imagination come with you can make you know like you can make a you can make it where like the satellites and stuff in the atmosphere exploded and now people can't leave the planet because shrapnel was just like flying around the planet like
So if they
time
try to
travel all
blast
kinds
off,
of
there's like shrapnel everywhere.
stuff. She gets shredded and stuff. So it's like stuff like that I love that you can just kind of like whatever you think up you can just fucking make.
Because
The
it is
future like
It's so interesting. The future, we don't know what the hell's going to be there, right,
no
Matt? Like,
yeah
dude, it could be anything. Like, there could be like, a world that populates in the next 1,000 years that just maybe horses run around, and like the little, frogs and all these other little creatures are like, terrified, and the horses are like, you have intelligent horses or something. You know what I mean? Like, or the
yeah
shrapnel thing. Like, but your mind is very imaginative. Like, how do you get into like, what do you think the best creative space is for you to create like different types of things like that in your mind? Like, do you get into like these modes or something? Because I'm always interested in
Yeah.
how people harness creativity. Like it's huge.
So with me, like, I have ADHD. Like, it's one of my, uh, as you've heard, like during our conversation, I just like trail off and forget what I'm talking about. I'm like the like worst I know about it. It's
Oh,
a
I do the
blessing and a
same, man.
curse.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of stuff that comes out with the blessing of it. Like, imagine,
Yeah,
because if you don't have that type of, thought process where you constantly think, you're gonna do that. What you said earlier when we were talking about where people are just regurgitating the same content and just copying
yeah,
stuff, instead of being
yeah,
imaginative.
yeah. That's kind of where like even with the cards themselves, like I get to like I'll be thinking, I have a card that does something, returns something to somebody's hand and draws you a card, and then like now I need to name this card and I need to give it like some kind of flavor in the game that what you're doing is doing something in the game, not just playing a card. So that's where like, and then I try and make the artwork around whatever like either feeling I'm trying to force or something like something like that. Like you'd have something that's like return something to somebody's hand. Well, like why is it being returned? Like how so like maybe it's a you know the explosion is so powerful it blows them back into off the map or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's like okay, well now I have to draw an explosion like so powerful it would like remove somebody from the arena, like so. And then that's kind of like fun because it's like a little challenge, like
Oh yeah.
but
Yeah, like trying to draw what your like mind is constantly thinking and like, okay, like this new concept, how am I gonna like
yeah,
get this onto like, a visual that people are gonna, receive,
it,
too.
and that's where like I've heard other like artists and stuff say that they can see what they're like making in their head. With me, it's not really like that. I have like an idea, but until it's like done, like I'm just kind of going with what I'm imagining at the moment or seeing at the moment, and then, but I usually don't start like with a complete finished idea of what I'm getting into. I just
Hmm.
kind of like start somewhere and kind of build
Like it
off of whatever.
evolves.
Yeah, usually, and it's like I said with the cards, I usually go with whatever like the card is trying to do. So there's a lot of like building abilities around the flavor of the cards and stuff. I think that's like one of the things that might really keep people is you get the regular gameplay, but then you have that added extra like the cards are feeling like you're doing something. As opposed to, I think that was like one of the things I liked so much about Magic when I was like younger is like lightning bolt to somebody's face, just like that's
Yeah.
it. so like stuff like that where it's like all right, well now I want to like remove somebody's like something from their hand, like they're so like pulling like information out of them, and then you can have something where it's like torturing somebody for information or something, like
Yeah.
stuff like that. Where and then you're like, okay, well, who and what, and that I think that's where like you were saying earlier, like it's all coming from the same person, not like 20 different artists. So
Yeah.
it's kind of all got a general concept behind it.
Exactly. And not only well, the concept is probably the bigger thing, but the other thing is just everything looks so uniform. Because it's trying to have like, 40 different artists make the same style of art. It's
Yeah,
it's
you
probably a
get
little
some like
complicated, you know?
as I say, there's some goofy ones where I'm like looking at a card and it's like I've got like a wizard, like a realistic wizard, and then like a round, like fluffy, like circular bunny thing, and it's like, and it's all like really like cutified and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't go with the other card at all.
Yeah, and Flesh and Blood's done that very well. Like I'm just speaking from the game I analyze a lot. But like there are some cards I'll admit, like in each set, there's about like four or five that I'm like, this doesn't really have the same feel, the same artwork feel as the other ones. I mean, they're still good art, but it's just a
Yeah,
different feel. So it's nice when everything is pretty uniform, overall. Um,
and there's definitely some like like three like what Atlas has like 300 cards or whatever. So there's definitely some artwork that isn't so you know isn't my best work, but but it's I think there's some of them actually turned out really well. That is like a really quick like I'll just have something like a chorus like Essence Flux or something that's like a it just kind of like changes the essence like so that's a very like how do you make that like it's a very
Yeah.
abstract concept so you just I have like a blob of colors like exploding or something like that and it's like that didn't take me long to make but like
But there's
some of
always
those
going to
that
be like
actually
different variations of detail, you know. Sometimes you are
yeah
going to have simplistic and like, yeah, no, I definitely have my more favorite ones. Like the one that I think you have for the Discord of Atlas, like with the two like heads, like that one looks really cool. Like,
let's see the
I forgot what it.
oh yeah so like the it's I know what you're talking about. It draws two and you lose four life.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, like
one of
some.
like the first cards for the game that I made.
Yeah. Oh, really?
But
That one looks really
yeah,
cool, man.
I can't think of the name right now, but it's like it's like the flavor text is like abundance of knowledge can create abundance of pain or something. I forget, but it's a
Yeah, it sounds
that,
very
that
familiar on the tip.
that's a very like a greed driven card and game cards when you lose life. I love those kind of like
Yeah, it's just yeah, just the level of detail is interesting with each one, and yeah, putting more detail in some, and then the other. But and it's also about the feel of the card, I guess, and the card ability. Like if it's just you're attacking with a 1/1 creature, it's probably not supposed to look like this epic like thing, you know? It's just
yeah.
a little annex drone that's attacking. And that was my favorite deck actually when I was playtesting is the one that
I
created
mean
drones. Dude, that was so much fun.
yeah
Like there's that one card that creates the tech card that creates a drone every turn. That was really cool. And then the other one that
yeah
creates a drone every,
Dronest
yeah, drone nest. And then the droid one or the drone one that he summons drones when you play like abilities. That one was really cool too.
yeah. There's a like some of my like it's I think that's one of the things too that's like the difference between me working on Holosseum like by myself and Atlas having other people like work with it with me is like they're kind of assigning like rarities sometimes and stuff that I just don't feel fits and I have to like go back and like kind of convince them to change it because like to me this is a really powerful card but they're not seeing the seeing and you know not everybody like I made the game so I know what cards you know
Yeah,
like
where the win strategies are, right? Is that what you're saying? Like,
yeah
yeah.
yeah exactly so they'll put a card like there's one for instance can't think of the name right now but it enters and it basically like replays a card from your discard pile it's a really simple effect and they marked it as like a common but it's like that card like the replaying a card is a very like it's more powerful than it looks and it being a cheaper costing card
Oh
like
yeah, no, that one could be
it,
like really well, especially
yeah
if it's like a
it's
really
like a
powerful spell in your graveyard.
yeah it could be abused and that's like one of those and you need like that like you don't want the whole game to be like
Yeah.
boring but
And
but at the
because
same time like I that's not a and Alice has a weird thing where it's like the amount of cards are different for each card. So like some of the commons you can have like 10 copies, and then like but it says it on the card how many cards you can have, and it's an interesting like power balance too. Like it enables me to make wilder cards, but you can only have like one copy of it. So it adds a little bit more. Alice does have more of a little bit of a randomness to it.
oh,
So,
like if you
but it's
draw
like
like that certain card, then if
yeah,
it's one per deck, it's good. Yeah, because and another card that I can think of offhand is there's this one that gets +1/+1 for every tech card that you have on the field. So that one was a huge like I built a deck around that where I just put a ton of tech cards like for the
oh
early
yeah,
to mid game, and then late game it would be like a 10/10 creature for like 2 mana. It would just be nuts. And yeah, that was a cool deck.
techno.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Technopunk. Yep.
that's a powerful one,
Yeah,
and that's
no.
like again where it was like one of those like they wanted that to be a common, and it's like that is like a very like win strategy card. Like it doesn't have a common. It seems weak until you add more. It's like it can
Oh, it's
synergize out
huge.
of control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
So
early game it's not that good, but then later
yeah,
game, like with all those tech cards that you have in the card pool, you can just throw it down a ton every turn that do a little bit, but then get a tech card on the field, and then yeah, that thing can ramp pretty hard. I even think that thing should be increased to like two or like 3 mana instead of two, because it's just like
yeah.
it's
That's actually
really good.
a good suggestion
Yeah,
because
that thing
I,
is
I
like
I went the other route. I think I took it down from a two at two offense to one reader. I made the
oh,
it
that's
was
good.
I do remember making it. I do remember making an adjustment on it because it did. There were some games where if you couldn't deal with it, uh, you'd lose the game like pretty quickly. But also at the same time, like you playing that many like techs in the deck, kind of you know, I don't know, like
Well, it
you're
makes it so that's
setting.
like your own only strategy, really,
Yeah,
honestly, right? Yeah,
yeah,
because
exactly.
I
So
remember there
you're
was a
you're
couple cards that like didn't really do any. The effects were like kind of crap, but like you have
mm,
to destroy the tech card to use it. So you put these tech
yeah,
cards on the field that you literally just don't want to use because then your tech punk will be weaker. So you're like, well, I'll just keep them all on the field. So it is like a risk reward strategy, especially if you don't
yeah,
draw the techno punk and it's at the bottom of your deck. Then you're kind of screwed
yeah,
with that deck. But it
and
was
they
a
can.
fun strategy, I'll admit. Like I played it a couple times and I really enjoyed that type of like,
Yeah,
just putting a bunch of tech cards on the field and loading them up and then creating some like 12-12 monsters. Crazy.
and that's kind of like each faction has its like the Federation has more of a like brute force like and a lot of tech like feeling to it. The Annex has a lot of like replayability out of like the discard pile, reviving them because they're hard to kill or whatever.
Mm. And the other
And
one
they
had a lot of discard and instant damage. I forgot which that one was.
yeah, that is the aberrant
Yep.
the aliens. That was they're they I don't know like they started out as like it was basically going to be like the uh the main like creatures I guess for
Oh.
everybody was going to be fighting against. But then it's like when we expanded the game, they just became like a race themselves or whatever, like a species themselves, and they're the uh, the main leader is one called Batharot. He's kind of like can control all of them with his mind. He's a very
Oh, that's
like
cool.
but they're real chaotic. Like there's a lot of like
Yeah, they
chaos
look
in
like
them. Like
insane, and like
yeah,
all the cards kind of like have a downside to them with like doing
yeah.
like damage or having your opponent discard. It's a
There's
really that was a fun one, and it and I will say like the way you designed Atlas, and it sounds like you did the same thing with Holosseum, is you're making each faction have like a different subset of attributes that they do, like discard or mill or life gain or what have you. They have their certain like strengths and weaknesses, and I really, you really do feel like you like are playing something completely different when you go from one deck to the other. And I think that was something really great with Flesh and Blood when I first started playing. Like when you play a warrior, you feel like a warrior, you know? When you play a wizard, you
yeah,
feel like a wizard. You have, different things that just make you feel like a different way. So that's cool to hear that Holosseum is kind of doing the same type of thing when you're doing your
yeah,
spreadsheet. And I can't imagine how big is your spreadsheet? Do you have like all these different card names and like abilities and like how
yeah.
how
Basically,
wow.
it's like a it. I I don't know. I work a lot with spreadsheets at work, so it was kind of just a thing that I pulled over from work and was like, uh, it worked well for like organizing and stuff. So I I used it and it worked. It was a very like easy way to work that way, and then went from that to like printing them on like cards, and then then I had to start adding artwork and stuff. But that no, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel you, man. Yeah, no, it's
But,
just man, you know so much about Making a card game is so cool. I honestly, man, I really really rooting for you, and I know
No,
I've
thank
taken
you.
up a lot of your time tonight, and no, I really appreciate you jumping on with me. And I just want to, summarize, like, you have a Kickstarter out now, Holosseum. I'll put a
Hmm.
link down below for this video so people can check it out. Previously in 2021, you and I communicated, and I, got some, test print cards and tried out, your previous game, Atlas.
Yeah.
Very impressed overall. And overall, I think that the projects that you work on, regardless of, the pros and cons, I can
Hmm.
see that there's substance behind it. And I think that
Yeah.
in the current age that we live in the TCG realm, there's a lot of people who are just, putting up like some sexy ass banner and like, like nice gibberish words, and then it says gameplay TBD, like we'll figure it out, don't you worry. But like I and you see right through those things. I think we're in 2022 and beyond, we're going to have more people really analyze things further and see if things have substance. And I feel like, the marketing side and, getting like the hype and the fire thing, it isn't like you don't have that yet. But I think that there's so
Hmm.
much substance that you have in your
I,
projects that it's just a
I've
matter
had
of
a lot of,
time. I think it's just a matter of
as I was
time.
saying, I've had a lot of positive, basically like, anyone that's played it or, I've been showing it to, there's always like a, you know, at least somebody is like, usually has like a very positive, and they can see what, what's behind it. And, again, that's one of the hardest things to portray in, on a Kickstarter is like, in a few paragraphs, I got to tell you everything that, like the, and, you know, I was trying to not flood the Kickstarter with so much like pictures and stuff too. Like there's like a, it's like a real sweet spot that you gotta like kind of hit. And, some of these people like, Kickstarter is like one of those things where, um, it, I feel like it's for someone like me where it's like, I have, something here, but I don't have the funds to get it out. I need help, like, basically like funding it. I can do pretty much anything. I just need time and money. And, but like you have, these companies that like, they are using the Kickstarter to like jump or like basically like as pre-orders. Like in some
It's
cases,
essentially
I've ordered
pre-orders, you're right.
and I've ordered stuff on. I mean, I like, you know, not gonna like put anybody out, but I've backed some things that I've like received the product like right after it hit goal, and I know for a fact you can't like print cards that quick, so it's like
Yeah.
I know that this was already made, so it's like they already had the money, they're just being reimbursed or using it as like pre-orders and stuff, and
Yeah, when they start
it's
the
like
Kickstarter, there's a warehouse full of those things.
yeah, exactly. So they just want to see how much money they can get back, So,
Yeah.
but like with me, it's like if I don't make the goal, like where they'll just like print it anyway and sell it. Like it's like I don't really have that option. So that's the kind of like the like stuff like this where this is like real important to like you know get a little more information out, I guess, than like just a few paragraphs on the Kickstarter.
Yeah,
And
no, man, and I'll definitely try to go through my contacts and let them know.
thank you.
There's a lot of other people out there in the TCG realm who's, interested in, new games coming out, and it's died off a little bit from the hype train of
Yeah,
2021, but it's with anything, time just
yeah,
makes, things are going to happen, in the next couple months and years that we won't haven't foreseen, and things will go up and down, but overall I
yeah.
think that substance is the key. And when I see like the stuff that you're working on, I do see a lot of like passion, and you're not only that, it's not about just passion, right? Anyone can have passion. It's about really like skill set. You need contract art, you have that, check. Game design, check, you got that. And then just developing a product and putting it in a bow and in a booster box, you got that. So I mean, it's just a matter of time before it all kicks off. And
I was gonna say
now, hmm?
I have all the pieces. I just need the help to pay for it.
Yeah, no, I'm a backer, man. No, I
Oh
backed
yeah,
the
yeah.
project, and I'm looking forward when Atlas comes out too. And No, I'm just really looking forward. Again, I'll put a link down below for anyone who's listened to us 2.5 hours talking. No, but I love talking to people for this. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's more content the better. But yeah, no, I really appreciate talking to you. Now I'll talk to you a little bit after this. But did you want to say anything after or before we wrap this video up, man?
No, I just like I think that I also think one of the things is like gameplay is going to be very uh interesting, like very addictive to like some people. There's like a certain I just know there's going to be a certain, especially for Holosseum, there's going to be a certain type of person that just like loves the kind of gameplay because it's very it's hard to explain. But
Well, with playing a card and drawing a card type thing, that sounds cool to me. I haven't heard of a game where you did that, where every time you play a card, you draw a card, and you can play two cards on each player's turn. That sounds really cool.
yeah, it's very it creates a very
Like
like
fast pace.
almost like yeah, like real fast paced, but at the same time you got to think about your moves because it's kind of like chess where you got to like think like two or three moves ahead because if not you'll walk into like a, a part where you can't play something because you played all your available cards that turn or something like that. It's a it's that was to me it's I don't know how to describe it. It has like a very explosive start,
Hmm.
but that can backfire very like I think that there's going to be a lot of people that really like the like skill of trying to because it's also fun like as in like you can just play it with anybody and have a good time, but it's like a there's like a layer of like competitiveness that I think is going to be really interesting and surprise some people.
So what you're saying is, if you're someone out there who's interested in actually playing a game that's printed on, paper, and wants like
Yeah,
something brand new to where it's like a high pay or just a chess type of, back and forth type
yeah,
action, then this is the kind of game to back.
it's kind of
And also collectability, because if you print 500 boxes, I mean,
like that could be.
do you think you would cap it at like maybe 1,000 or 10,000 boxes?
I would imagine that at some point I would have to cap and because I'd you know like you also kind of want to like save some. I feel like that would get like the ball rolling enough to like be able to like sell products for that and maybe create a community and stuff that can really because that's like another thing that's really important is the community part
Yeah.
and that's kind of like one thing that I'm really hoping for because with TCGs at least like it's like one of the last things I can think of where you can just go somewhere and hang out like
Yeah.
uh besides a restaurant like and
There's
almost all
something
those closed
magical
during
about
COVID.
that, right?
Yeah, exactly, and that's when I like that getting out house and meeting people face to face and stuff like that. And it's kind of like where I think Magic kind of like they are making a ton of money with Arena because now they don't have to print anything to charge people. They're
Yeah.
charging them for digital stuff now, but it's like that just made like everyone stay at home and play on their computer now. It's like a that's kind of one of those. I really like the in person aspect of games like that.
Yeah, I think people have said it's taken the gathering out of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But
So
no diss to Magic at all, but yeah, I
yeah,
mean
I just
it's kind of the state of where we're at. I mean, when you think of all the other things over time, like the newspapers and other outdated technology, like once things progress and people go to a different platform, like now it's the internet, and all these
mhm.
triple A games are literally going online for $0 because they
Yeah,
make money more on ad. So like literally you could be anyone out there in the world. You download it instantly for 0 when, you
yeah,
know, Flesh and Blood, you need to buy like, a bunch of product. You'd have to buy like $500. Okay, am I going to spend $0 and sit on my ass in my room, or do I want to
yeah.
pay $500 and, go
Collect a
outside?
bunch of stuff and then go out and go to
Exactly.
a random place.
A lot of people are lazy out there. Honestly, there's is just
Yeah,
a convenience epidemic, really, where people just care more about convenience, it's really there's a cost to convenience. And I don't know
yeah.
if you've watched the There's a really good series, Chernobyl. What is the cost of lies is like the biggest thing that they talked about, the Soviet Union and everything. And I think
Yeah,
the same thing could be said about convenience. What is the cost of convenience? And it's that, gathering that we were talking about. And a
yeah,
lot of other things like
exactly.
exercise,
Yeah, very,
heart
very much so.
disease. Yeah.
That is is someone that stays inside more often than anything.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's
That's
it's
one of
been
the,
a real big pleasure talking with you, man. And
yeah,
I just want to summarize. So, Holosseum, it's Kickstarter's out right now. I'll probably be releasing this video in a week or so, and or like yeah, definitely before the Kickstarter ends. But you got a lot of substance with your gameplay. It's top notch. You can pick up a booster box and like a Kickstarter promo card for what? Like the lowest tier you have is like $100, but it ranges up to like 1,000 or so. But like
yeah, it's around there. I was Sam. I know that it's kind of like a it. That is one of the things that like I got like last time like people were saying that like the price was high, but it's like one of those where it's high because it's such a low uh
well, there's a low
like
printing and
amount. Yeah,
yeah, and
but
not only that,
as
but
it goes up, like there will be stuff added. That's kind of like one of those where we have stretch goals that
yep.
each time we hit something like we're gonna I even have plans to expand the whole set like by like another like 50 cards or so if we get to a certain like it's just like again if we could
It's
if we get
economies of
overfunded.
scale, right? Then you'll be
Yeah,
able to get
exactly.
way more out per person and yeah,
Yeah,
and
exactly. And
yeah,
that's
and
where like I feel bad for people. It's like you're paying like $100 or $120 or something like that for like a booster box, but it's like, but if it goes over, then I can, I will be able, like you're already getting a card, like
what
a
how many decks can you make
specialized.
out of one box, do you think?
I mean, you can make a few. I mean, it's
Okay, then
you
that's,
40
good
cards.
value.
I was gonna say, and like, I don't know, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No,
uh,
no, dude, it's good value. And honestly, other than that, like, like you said, there's stretch goals, but, I feel like you've been just really busting your ass on all these different projects that, like now that, Atlas is like, picked up by, the production company, White Goblin Games, that have really been like front running that, and they see your potential too. They see like, oh, okay,
yeah,
this guy does stuff. So, now that this is, your baby Holocene, you're able to like just crank out, a bunch of stuff once it's fully funded. But, other than that, like you got the game design, you got, a bunch of stuff going for it. And I don't know, I'm a backer. We've talked for a little bit, but
thank
this is
you,
the first time you and I have talked now. And I
yeah,
reached out to you. I was like, hey, dude, like, yeah, let's talk. Cause I was just very interested in the project because you have so many
yeah, thank
different
you,
skill set and different things and artwork. I don't really, I'm not an artist or any type of that stuff, so I don't really know anything.
yeah,
So I've just been literally just siphoning your information if you haven't noticed. Like, this is this
yeah,
is for me too. So, and I hope the listeners have, heard a lot of stuff from you and, really understood the process around making a Kickstarter game because it's not
yeah.
it's not all simple. I mean, it can be.
No,
You can hire like
I
a couple artists on Fiverr for $200 and make like really sexy banners and gameplay TBD. Of course you can do that, but anyway, there's a lot of
I
substance behind what you do, man, and I'm wishing the best for it, and I really hope it gets
thank
fully
you.
funded.